Well, good afternoon to the WeatherTech Raceway here at Laguna Seca. I'm Kev Harrison. We are pleased to say we're back in business, bringing you the final day of the Rolex Monterey Motorsport Reunion. A slightly later start. We must apologise if you tuned in online a little bit earlier on today. There was a power outage in the whole valley. No electricity, no mobile phone signal, but thanks to a highly trained team of technicians and engineers in the whole area and down here at Laguna Seca, we're back up and running. Extra special mention to Jeff, the guy who's been running around with the TV crew, running cables into us. We're able to bring it to you. We're back online. A great selection of cut races for you then to come. A full schedule this afternoon. It's going to be back-to-back. It's going to be super exciting. The great news is as well, we've still got Johnny Green and Adam Andretti who are waiting patiently up in their commentary position. So without further ado, they're doing their prep and their research to add the colour and the excitement to our first race of the day, which are some historic GT cars. So gentlemen, the great news is we're back in business. Over to you.
Yes, warm welcome back to Laguna Seca, and it's a beautiful day here. Foggy this morning, as always, on the Monterey Peninsula, but that don't matter. We're back in action, and we're loving it. And we're in that porta cabin group of 3 floors there, which is where we are perched, right over the start-finish straight. So we do get a glimpse as they come out of the final corner and fly down the main straight. So look at the circuit. You can see the corkscrew up in the background, but this is a fascinating circuit. There's no question about it. And it's one that is steeped in both bike and car history. And from a point of historics, it's very much where Trans Am began. There is the famous corkscrew. And Adam, you've been down it. What's it like?
That's a roller coaster ride right there. If you've ever been on one in a car, that's for sure. Once you crest right there, kind of where the Rolex that Rolex sign to the right is, then that's really the optimum line. You're really pointed straight down, and you're released off the brakes. You're on the power, coming down that hill, grabbing gears because you've dropped a significant amount of altitude there, if you will. You're grabbing gears all the way through Waney Curve down into turn 10 there in a hard brake zone, but. What a beautiful day here. Nice little breeze. As you can see the flags moving in the wind, and the Ferris wheel there. This is shown right there's the little kid compound, if you will, or the family compound. It's a great place to bring your family. Go have some fun. When the cars aren't running, go have wheels. It looks like we're rolling here, Johnny, for our first group of the afternoon, Group 1B.
Yes, Group 1B. They were out this morning, and of course we've been watching them for the last few days. So very, very pleased to see them out again for their final run.
Starting up front is that beautiful Piranha that we've been admiring with Frank Zucchi behind the wheel of that, and such an eclectic group of cars here. So many different. Definitely brands and things, and you're going to recognize like Austin Healey and Chevrolet and Triumph, Porsche, Morgan. But then there are those in there that you may not have heard of, like the Starkweather, the Elva, if you will. So there's also, and the Piranha, as I just mentioned. So a lot of fun vehicles to watch here. It's a pretty big field too.
Yeah, cars from 1955 to 1964, all GT cars. And just a reminder that the Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion 1955 to 1964 GT Group is brought to you by Chattanooga Motor Car Festival.
From La Jolla, California, driving the 1960 Alfa Romeo SV in white.
That ought to be a good one there, Chattanooga.
Yeah, I fancy that, actually. Having just been to Nashville and knowing how much fun that is.
Right, it's a
Chattanooga, it's not far off.
Yeah, Tennessee's a fun state to be in for sure. Big thumbs up there. Good fun here.
The pretty little Porsche number 19, that's a 1958 356 Speedster.
Yeah, Steve Schmidt behind the wheel, giving us a big hand, big thumbs up. Strapped in there with the bandana around. Looks like a sprint car.
Yeah. So here we go. The cars heading out of pit lane to start our Group 1B for their final time here at the Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion 2021.
Love how they roll right out, get right down to business. They don't take the pit exit. They're going to basically stay 2 by 2 and in that file going around. Get the tires up to temperature, brakes up to temperature, all that good stuff. Probably get one pace lap and come here to get the green flag one time around.
Certainly looking forward to some racing. And Adam, why don't we take a closer look at this track?
First start finish line, you go through turn 1 right here. It's downhill to a heavy braking zone into the Andretti hairpin. Turn 2, you want to get nice and straight on the exit. Into turn 3 there. Turn 4, a couple of 90-degree turns. Coming into turn 5, very fast corner here leading up to 6. Another fast corner down the Rahal straightaway. Hard on the brakes for the corkscrew. Coming down corkscrew 8-8. Through the Wayne Rainey left at turn 9. Turn 10, nice fun corner in a hard braking zone 11. Back onto the front straightaway, climbing the hill to the flag stand. That's your 2.23 miles around WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca.
Pretty cool that turn 9 is Rainy Curve, and you got to talk to the man himself yesterday.
Well, it was such a special moment for me, and definitely something I'll cherish forever, and such a gracious man, and it's exactly how you want your heroes to be. Is exactly the way Wayne Rainey is. So,
and I asked Wayne where he lives, because I knew he lived in the hills here, and he said, actually, I'm just over that hill there, and I can actually see Rainy Curve from home.
That's not a bad thing, is it? No, that's a pretty cool backyard to have as WeatherTech Raceway.
Yeah, very nice indeed. And he's been known to go karting with Eddie Lawson, his old rival, around here, so that would be a joy.
I've heard that he's a heck of a go-kart driver, actually.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it?
I've heard he's very good, very handy in a go-kart. Let's make their way 2x2 down the famous corkscrew here. Rolex Race Group 1B, 1955 to 1964 GT cars.
Lights out on the pace car, and we're going to be going racing. Frank Zucchi, Kevin Adair, big drag race. I put my money on that.
So as we're lining up, getting 2x2, coming into turn number 10. Turn number 10 is...
Before Frank Zucchi, but we'll tell. We've got video now, so we'll be able to see what happens. That Piranha was looking pretty good this morning. That's a fast car. It handles real well. Yeah.
And delighted, as we get underway, we'll be hearing from James Alder, who drives that resplendent number 33 Jaguar XK120. But we'll get underway, and then we'll hear from him. He's just joined us in the booth as we get away for our Group 1B 1955 to 1964 GT cars.
Well, as a green flag waves, going to accelerate up the hill here again. Get a good run down there into the Andretti hairpin. So important for that number 31 Piranha sports racer.
And he got a great jump start too, didn't he? Well done to him. And away they go down to the Andretti hairpin for the first time.
I think that's Frank Zucchi.
Frank Zucchi, it is. That's
Piranha, which is obviously a very unique car with a very unique name.
And James, welcome to the booth. You've been out there today. What are the conditions like?
Well, the conditions are very, very good. I mean, the cooler air is definitely a positive thing for these cars. Lovely day for racing.
Love that. Absolutely. It is. It's a beautiful day for racing, and you have a beautiful car. We're very much admirers of not only your car, but also, James, the way that you approach a whole vintage weekend and a whole historic weekend. You take it to the absolute maximum. Hearing your stories, it just reminds me of all the stories I've heard of my uncle and my dad and all their friends, all the racers that I've been surrounded by in my whole life, from the Peterballs to the Rices, the Carters. Such similar stories to what you really experience every time you go vintage racing.
Well, I think, as we've spoken before, I think that's really what it's all about. The vintage racing gives a regular person the opportunity to live out a fantasy of being a race car driver. I have harbored that fantasy all my life. I still do. I still want to do this. The action here, by the way, is really, really good. This is the top of the corkscrew. This is going through. It's distracting me because this is really good racing right now.
It really is. No, it is, and that's the thing too. These are some of the most fun cars to toss down the corkscrew.
Correct.
They're such a nimble little car. It's such a wonderful little package here for these GT cars in this era. This is really before they started putting real big engines in them. So these are lighter, more nimble cars.
Well, and these were cars. Even this group, these were cars that were common race course. Not so much in my era, but, it takes a lot of skill to drive these cars fast. Don't mean to be taking anything away from modern racing, but let me tell you something. Driving, and look at this. Oh, whoa, he's got a big moment right here.
Big tank slapper.
Look at that.
It's still slapping.
Still going.
We're finally going to make it happen.
Oh, but this is not over yet. He's got to get out of there.
I tell you, it offered a lot of excitement, the 3-car there. That's a Santee SS of Terry Sullivan, the 1962 Santee.
Ended up with the Kitty Santee.
I tell you, there's still a dust cloud down there at the Andretti hairpin where all that happened. These cars too. Again, the suspension and everything is not as modern, obviously, so it's so lazy that when it takes laps and they go to a take lap, it just picks up momentum like a pendulum on your desk,
it's
right?
Very hard to catch it from a timing perspective. He almost really had it handled. It looked like he had it under control, but it started to come around to him when he was in the gravel. Then when you get that situation where you're coming across the race course out of control, well, anything can happen.
Yeah, and now I tell you what, hats off to all the drivers that definitely had their eyes in the right place, right? They were seeing the action going on up ahead of them, definitely looking for their way out, and everyone found their way out, and what a great lesson that is for all of us.
Well, I did see a 356 that went by. It looked like there was a dent in the front of that vehicle. Now, did it come in contact with that special or not?
Was it a silver one?
No, I thought it was red, and but I'm surprised there's not more of a here going on. It looks like they're still under racing conditions.
Yeah, we have out there, so everything in the track is still clear. This is the 171. That is 1959 Alston Healy 3000.
I think that's a 106 or a very early 3000.
It's a 3000 BN7 according to our notes. Kevin Adair at the wheel. That's that screams Johnny Green, doesn't it? Screams Johnny Green.
My dad would take the Jaguar, I would take the Austin Healy without a doubt.
And it was. You're right. It's a very early 3000. Except for the plan from Donald Healy Competition Shop. That prepared for the 1960 Canadian Drivers' Championship Series. That got supported and entered by Austin of Canada.
It's a beautiful car too, yeah. I would have it in Robin's Egg Blue, just like the Tears for Fears video.
That does not shock me.
But that was a 53, just in case you were wondering.
I wasn't, but I'm glad you clarified. Because I'm sure there's people at home that
You've
were.
got me doing my trivia these days.
Now that's John Ganaway in that TR4. I've had the pleasure of meeting him. Looks like it's off right now. Here he is right there. That's John Ganaway. Now look, that's a TR4. Look at him. He's beating up that V8 Corvette.
I love it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Now, James Older is one of my favorites here because he epitomizes, to me, what historic racing is all about. He drives his XK120 across from Reno down to the historics here at Laguna and other events. James, how long have you been doing that?
My first race was March of 1982, so I think that would make this season 30, possibly season 40.
And you've made it. And the car's made it.
Yeah, well, not without, some drama over the years.
I bet there's a book there.
No, it's, I mean, again, Jonathan, when we had spoken before, when I first started driving the car, and had the opportunity to race it, it never occurred to me to trailer it because I didn't have a trailer and I didn't have the money and I didn't have a tow vehicle. But part of the adventure was driving it there. And I thought, well, this is a car, they say that you can do that with a 250 Ferrari. You can drive it to the racetrack, race competitively, and drive home. Well, they're in a little bit different price range from an XK120.
Right.
But you can do that with an XK120. And I have done that. I think this weekend is event 149 or 150. Out of those 150 approximate race weekends, there's been about 6 when I could not drive the car home.
That's amazing. And of course, the XK120 was the first car to win here at the Pebble Beach races back in 1950. And at the wheel, a certain 23-year-old Phil Hill.
Absolutely.
Who was a mechanic at the time.
Yes.
Just starting out.
Yes. And that was really his first major road race. You've probably seen the pictures of him holding the trophy. And that car is owned by a gentleman that lives in the area here. And that car is at Pebble Beach right now.
Wow.
Huge counter steer out of the number 10 there. That's a 1959 Elva Courier Mark 1, blue and red. Frank Diaquano there in that car. Played a handful. Great camera shots there. Nice and smooth through turn 6, though, to climb the hill. You want to be smooth, get that clean run up there.
when they can slide those cars and catch them like that, that's an example of real talent, in my opinion.
No, I agree. No, I totally agree. We've definitely seen, we feel like the ghost of Sir Sterling Moss here a few times. Beautiful four-wheel drifts have been carried out throughout the weekend. We've definitely watched you hustle your SK 120 around quite a bit. You're not afraid to get that thing slid around. And
that's what it's all about. I mean, if you're not on the edge, you're taking too much rum. You've got to get that vehicle right on the edge. That's where the fun is.
Yeah, of course. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. And
a lot of people say that vintage racing is kind of a parade. Well, this doesn't look like it to me.
No, Jonathan and I have been in the booth, and we haven't seen one single parade out here. The only time that we saw really that it was the door was almost always left wide open was just a practice session,
right? Because
the respect was there. But when that rag drops up here, when that green rag drops, you all put that visor down and put the goggles on, whatever period y'all are staying in, and you get to business. It's real deal out there. It's serious business.
It definitely can get a little misty because of your desire for competition really builds up, but you don't want the red mist because, of course, then you make mistakes.
Yeah. You must get, if you drive that car all the way from Reunion, you must get a few hoots from either a car or a truck.
People love that car on the road. A lot of people that see that car on the road know that I'm heading to a race.
Yeah.
And I get a tremendous amount of attention. In fact, some from the Highway Patrol that I don't really want. However, I have, they like the car so much. On 2 occasions, when I've been exceeding the speed limit, they've gotten right next to me, and over their loudspeaker, they would ask me if I would kindly slow down.
Ah, that's nice.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You could use my line that I use when I get pulled over.
Yes.
Do you know why I pulled you over? You wanted a closer look at the car.
Well, when I do get pulled over, I'm always very, very polite. The essence of innocence, I hope. But I just don't want to say the wrong thing under the wrong circumstances.
It's important to be polite to those men and women in uniform. They work hard out there. It's a tough job, and that's a risky job. They have no idea who they're approaching in those cars, and so when they come across as somebody's friendly, it turns into a much better interaction. So I do a lot of teen schools, teaching teens performance driving, so that if they get put in a situation that they don't have to hit the ball out of the park to save their life, right? They're used to catching a car in a skid and some of those things that can happen. And,
I love that. I absolutely love that.
I do too. I think everyone should have to go through that kind of driver training, and I'm happy. I love to do it for the kids. And one of the things I teach the kids too is the other stuff that they're going to go through out on the road. And I talked to them about it, that it will happen. They will get pulled over, and the proper way to do that. And politeness is always the winner of that game. And, you don't know what that officer's gone through in that day in their personal life or professional life. You don't know if their captain just ripped them a new one.
Right.
So by you having a smile on your face and being polite, it makes their day even that much better.
Right. I could not agree more. Now, another great thing about the train, I've had a lot of desire all my life, to go fast.
Yeah.
I want to drive fast. But when young people or old people have an opportunity to get on the racetrack and drive under safe conditions, it helps them relieve that desire a little bit on the road.
I agree. No, the slowest I drive is after a race. The slowest, and it's funny, if I don't have a ride or if I'm struggling to get stuff together to go racing, my wife will finally say from the passenger seat, "We need to get you a ride." You haven't been on the racetrack in a while. You're getting it out here on the road, and that's not where any of us want to do it. But yeah, it certainly is. I couldn't agree with you more there, James. It removes, because you've got it out of your system.
That's right.
Completely.
That's right. And I try to explain that to people. Now, this is Ranson Webster. That's, I think, one of 6 Abarth Carreras, 356.
1961, that car.
My understanding is that Ferry Porsche and Carlos Abarth were at a bar together and got in a fight, actually, not amongst each other, but amongst some other patrons, ended up in jail together, and that's when Abarth said, "I can build a special 356 Porsche for you that will be more competitive than what you're building." My understand, that's how they got together, and that's why that car exists.
I like a good story like that. We also saw the Morgan Plus 4, the blue.
You believe
behind?
1 out of 6 too. I mean, Why is that not in a museum somewhere? Because it should be out here racing.
Well, actually, he has 2 of the 6.
Oh, man.
And Ranson does have the largest Porsche automobile collections in the world in Reno, Nevada. That's why I happen to know so much about that.
That makes total sense.
By the way, this +4 that is chasing Ranson there, that is a really, really great +4. Very, very durable. I've spoken to that guy a couple of times. He bought that car about 5 years ago. It's been a great car for him.
That's Greg Powell. Yeah, Greg Powell behind the wheel there.
Yes.
Lovely looking car too, yeah.
I think he's number 33. He might be using my number.
But, you've always had that Jaguar, and I know that's sort of partly choice, but also a passion for it. Is that true of historic drivers, that they pick a brand and stick with it, or do people swap and change?
Well, it depends on their approach. I mean, some people that want to get into vintage racing, it's very important for them to win. So they will look at a class and find out what's the fastest car in that class, then they go out and buy that car.
Okay.
I started in the reverse. I actually had the XK 120, and it was after I owned the 120 that I discovered vintage racing. And so it's not the fastest car in my group, but it's certainly one of the most fun cars in my group.
And I think there's about 3 in the group, right?
There's 3 in the group, yeah.
You had a heck of a race with another SK.
Yeah, I wasn't quite as competitive with them as I was hoping to be. In June, I raced here, and against those same 2 cars, I was the fastest.
Okay.
But I don't know, maybe too much scotch Friday night. I'm not sure.
Now, also, when we came over to see you yesterday, as is all historics, you were fiddling about looking for bolts. What was wrong?
Well, what I've been fighting all weekend is a mysterious gearbox leak. I think I now know what's happening, but at the time when you stopped by, I wasn't aware of what was happening, and I spent a lot of time actually making a diaper for the gearbox to help with its incontinence, but I also had to fabricate a shield to help any oil that escaped from the gearbox from getting on the exhaust.
Okay.
I say I did this. That's not really true. There's several people. There was Al that came to my rescue. There was Bill Engelman that came to my rescue. In fact, one thing I will tell you about the vintage racing, if you have an issue, everybody wants to help.
Yep.
There's a high level of camaraderie. I'm always borrowing tools, parts. It's just a great group where everybody will help everybody else.
How about that for a drone shot? Lovely. And by the way, when you see the back of this car, check out the powerboat.
Yeah, it's got a little prop
propeller there. Prop propeller on the back. Yeah. I don't know if that was original, but I guess it must have been.
Well, I don't know. It does have somewhat of a boat tail rear end.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's got the little
like a
motorboat thing.
Yeah, it does. It looks like you could just drive it right into the lake there and go for a little drive.
Well, it's called a Piranha, so.
Yeah, there it is, right? So the final lap, we're working the final lap here of our first race this afternoon. Group 1B, these are GT cars from 1955 to 1964.
Now, you look at the back of this, James. Check it out.
Oh, yes.
That's right.
See that. Oh, look
hey! Get the wind in it?
No,
it's getting him up the hill.
Heck, that could be giving a little propulsion there.
It could be, couldn't it?
I would call it drag.
Yeah. And just behind him, the number 3. That's the Santi we were talking about earlier. This is the final lap, and, a little bit cloudy in the distance, but it's a beautiful day here on the Monterey Peninsula. Do you get amongst any of the concourses or get down to Pebble Beach, or do you just stay here?
I have in the past, but really my heart is at the track.
Yeah.
To give you an idea of how long ago it was when I did go to the first event here and then went to Pebble Beach, because actually back then, the event was just Friday and Saturday. The track was taken over on Sunday by the Ferrari Club, and most everybody went to Pebble Beach. Well, do you know how much it costs to get into Pebble Beach now?
I bet it's more than $15.
Yeah, it is. Now, when I went in, it was $20.
Right.
Now, I think it's about $500 for a cheap ticket.
Oh, my goodness.
If you want something special, it's going to cost a pile more. I mean, and it's just, I just don't want to spend that kind of money on it, really, to be honest with you. I can't. I've got to throw the money in the Jaguar.
Well, let's head down to Kev Harris. He's down in the paddock, and I'm sure he's been up to no good, but he'll tell us what's going on.
Well, how about this, Johnny and Adam? I'm down here at the IndyCar Heritage Display, and it doesn't get any better. I've only bumped into multiple IndyCar champion, Indianapolis 500 winner, Bobby Rahal. Bobby, thanks for showing up today. I understand you just rolled into the event. How are you getting on so far? How are you enjoying it?
Oh, yeah, I wish I could have been here all weekend. We had a race in Indianapolis yesterday, but one day here is still better than nothing. And, it's a great event, a lot of great cars, a lot of old friends, so I really enjoy coming out here to the Monterey Historics.
Yeah, it's a great event, and we're stood here at the moment at the Heritage Display. A couple of these cars that we're stood right next to right now, there are a couple of in your collection. The 1966 Eagle behind us is quite special, isn't it? That's a Dan Gurney designed car.
Dan Gurney's team, AAR, All-American Racers, they ran these cars in 66, 67. Of course, that was the height of the tire war. Goodyear was a big supporter of Gurney, as was Ford. And so anyway, and I always thought that these cars were so beautiful because there were no wings, it was just very simple, just very graceful designs. And so growing up, I was a big fan of Dan Gurney, and then now to have one of his cars is really special for me.
Yeah, and interesting as well, technicians would be interested to know about the methanol and the gasoline. You've just got rolled back in it because you were just flushing gasoline through it to clean the insides out.
Right, well, methanol is very corrosive to the inside of the engine, so you can't let it sit in there. And so what you do is, they call it pickling the engine, where you run gasoline through it, and the gasoline cleans out the methanol, and that protects the internals of the engine. So it's doesn't like to run on gasoline, but it gets the job done. And these cars, in the end, though, these cars were pretty simple. They were quite fast in the day, and once again, I think I think this is an era that really was electric for IndyCar racing. I'm just glad to have a piece of it.
Yeah, exactly. And as soon as you fire these things up, the fans here, they all just get drawn to them because they got a sound all of their own. And the number 21 car here, I mean, this is just immaculate. The condition that thing's in, oh boy, you've done a great job on that.
Well, what's famous about this car is the great Jim Clark from Scotland drove this car, particularly at Riverside, California in 1967. He fought a big race with Dan Gurney. Ultimately, he had a mechanical problem, and Gurney won the race. But the fact that Jimmy Clark, who was my hero, drove this car is that's something special for me. And then over here, the next car over there is great Mark Donohue, American racer, Indy 500 champion in '72, and of course he drove for Roger Penske. So here we are now. Roger Penske owns the Speedway, owns IndyCar racing. So it's amazing how it kind of all keeps coming around.
That's what I was about to say. Every corner we turn down here, there's like names that are getting dropped, and they're all tied in together, and they're still doing it. And I mean, it's just great to see. And what about this event as well? Like I say, you just showed up this morning. You had much of a chance to look around yet? The Motorsport Reunion here at Monterey, kind of reborn this year, and it's looking great, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think everybody's ready to get out, see the world, right? And it was disappointing not to be able to come here last year, but, obviously for reasons we all know why. I wasn't here yesterday, but I heard the crowd was tremendous.
It was off the chart.
Yeah, and of course now the crowd's down at Pebble Beach today, but today's a nice day, not so many people, and yet all the cars are here, so you can get around a little bit easier and spend more time talking to people.
Well, Bobby, thanks so much. I feel we've taken up too much of your time already, and as what happens down here at an event like this, when you stop somebody like Bobby Rahal in a heritage display, there's a huge crowd all behind us right now who want to get a picture of this guy, so we better let him go and do his job. Bobby, thanks so much. A real pleasure, a real treat. Right, don't go anywhere because the action continues from here at Laguna Seca right after this.
When the finish line calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance protection from Hagerty. Whether you drive a built racer, sports car, or exotic, and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com. When hours invested become miles enjoyed. Whether you're customizing or building a car from the ground up, Hagerty protects your vehicle with guaranteed value coverage. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com.
Out there in about 5 minutes. Let's start talking about these drivers, shall we?
And the action continues here at Laguna Seca. We're looking down on turn 3 and 4, and a nice view from the drone, a very different view of Laguna for those who have watched motor racing here many times, because you don't get this perch very often. And we're getting ready for our next action.
Probably. Number 27.
Cars lining up and getting ready to go. And there's the 96. Looking forward to seeing that. Another glorious Porsche. This one driven by Edward Matsushi. Again, James Alder joining us, and I'm sure you're pretty familiar with a lot of these cars as well.
I am. You know, I haven't owned a more modern sports car. I do have a mid-60s E-Type, but I haven't owned, but they're great, great cars. I've had access to them as my very, very good friend, Michael Winkler, who was a passenger in my XK120 when I went over the pass in the snow. He was about 19 years old.
In an open-air car.
Yes. Well, in March of '82, he was just 19 years old at that time.
But he could handle it then.
Well, a couple of years later, Porsche moved to Reno, Nevada as its U.S. headquarters.
Okay.
And he got a job with Porsche. Michael was born in Germany and spoke German. Got a job with Porsche, and then worked his way up through the ranks to become the director and or the president of Porsche Automobiles Australia.
Oh, wow.
Now, when he was an executive in Europe prior to Australia, I visited him and I had access to Porsches.
That's how close Tony is. He's getting the exhaust on his camera lens.
Fogged out.
Sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, and so my brother Jonathan and I visited Michael in Europe, and he provided us with a 911 Speedster. This was about 1989. So it was the later version Speedster, and it was a great, great car. And I just absolutely fell in love with 911s from that point. Later in Australia, the Klaus Bischoff, the gentleman that ran the Porsche Museum, provided me with a 356 Carrera Coupe, one of, I think, only two in Australia. I had access to the Targa Floria winning RS60 that I believe Jochen Moss won with.
Wow.
By the way, that was in Tasmania.
Yes.
It was.
Well, the Taz
Can't make that up.
No, yeah, exactly.
It was great to see Bobby, big smile on his face, rightfully so. Yesterday in the IndyCar race, Graham finished 7th and Takuma Sato, his other driver, finished 10th respectively. But you could tell, James even mentioned how relaxed he looked. I mean, this is where racers can come to relax are at these historic events, and someone that is as popular as Bobby.
Driving the 1966 Porsche 911.
Now, the Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion 1961 to 1966 GT Group is brought to you by Race for RP. We're all in. Are you?
Number 19, 23rd on the grid, Ross Merrill, Salinas, California. 56.
And as you can see, lining up pre-grid and getting ready for what will be 2B, and that's 61 to 66 GTs under.
Love that blue. I always love that blue.
It's a beautiful color, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the 1970 911T. Mauricio Moro behind the wheel there.
So what other events do you and a lot of these guys do? I mean, obviously this is the biggie. I'm sure when you do your calendar of the year, this is the one you kind of put down first, right? But there are others. I know you have attended many. Where else do you go?
Well, primarily the events on the west coast of the U.S. I'm pretty active with a group called CSRG, that's Classic Sports Racing Group. It's actually the oldest vintage racing group in the country, in the U.S., I believe.
Mm-hmm. Really? When were they founded?
I think 1968.
Oh, that's really...
Yeah. Vintage racing had been going on a long time in the UK, but not so much in the U.S. So that was one of the state's originating bodies. Now, when I originally wanted to start vintage racing, which was in the late 70s, I contacted CSRG. The director of it is a gentleman named David Love, and I I told him that I had a Jag that I wanted to enter in his next vintage race. He was really appreciative. He said, great. Is it a D-type? And I said, well, no, it's not a D-type. He said, well, is it a C-type? And I said, no, Mr. Love, it's an XK120 Roadster. He said, James, is it an alloy-bodied Le Mans 120? And after a moment of dead silence, I said, well, no, it's just a regular 120. Again, he was very nice.
Sure.
But he explained that they only race the production race cars, not the production street cars.
Gotcha.
And I was heartbroken at the time. I did not have a cool enough car.
Yeah, that's crestfalling.
However, several years later, they changed the rules. Types became, obscenely valuable.
Sure.
Unfortunately, there's not one D-type or one C-type here. Now, there are a couple of Lister Jaguar here this weekend.
Yeah.
But some of these cars have just become so valuable, which is a shame, because the whole idea is to work and make money to be able to do this, not make money off the car.
Gotcha.
See, people get their priorities mixed up when these values get too high.
Yeah, I agree.
You're right. No, you're absolutely right. We're lined up here. They're lined up getting into turn 11.
2 by 2.
Up, 2 by 2.
Ready to go to the final corner at Laguna Seca, turn 11, and then they will roar down the pit straight and past our commentary position to begin Group 2B here at Laguna. The Rolex Monterey Reunion.
Keep your eye on number 7. That's Marnix the Demon Delineus.
Okay.
That's an Alpha GTZ. He's a very good driver. Very experienced.
He's already looking to the inside there to get some, to get a little bit of a jump on the field here.
Now the Porsches are off.
Those very early 911s, they're rear end happy.
Yeah.
So that takes a lot of skill to drive one of those fast.
My dad would say it's like throwing a dart backwards.
Yeah.
And all the weight is where you didn't really want it to be at the
Right.
time. And it took him some time to really control that in a racing environment and get where it is now. A modern Porsche, they drive so well. But they've also moved the engine more towards the mid of the car and made it more of a mid-engine car.
Absolutely.
In the new RSRs.
A nice big field of cars too. Small ball, but just as exciting as any other group out there.
Cars like this, built for Laguna Seca here at the WeatherTech Raceway. It's just such a nimble car, and it's until you go to climb the hills, you really don't feel like you're missing.
Well, relatively short wheelbase, and they just handle really well. Of course, the Lotus Super 7 is a giant killer right there. Right,
Yeah.
the yellow, kind of open-fendered little car. Colin Chapman, it's all about lightweight and just strong enough to finish the race.
Yeah, and I, as a Brit, I now learning more and more about it. They must have been so miffed when those little Lotuses came over and beat them at Riverside or Sears Point or wherever else.
Because they beat up Corvettes, GT350s, and those guys are exposed. They're open. They're not in an enclosed car. There's a lot of exposure there.
Well, also another one of Colin Chapman's design traits was the driver was just a piece of meat. They were very expendable to him.
Yes.
That sounds like Ferrari too. Enzo had that.
The only ones that really weren't to him were the ones that meant a Jimmy Clark meant so much to him that when he lost that was a big loss to him. So, but and my Uncle Mario, was another one that he had a great affection for. But really, you heard Jimmy talk about that a lot. It was a piece of meat. I got drivers. There's drivers are a dime a dozen. We'll find another one.
Yeah, yeah. No, being a professional driver back in the day, that really, really took a certain type. And of course, as you know, people died too often.
Yep.
Oh yeah. No, Richard Petty said when he went to go on dates with Linda, he said Linda Petty's parents looked at him, or Linda's parents looked at him like he was a motorcycle outlaw, no different.
Yeah.
Because he's a race car driver. They were considered an outlaw.
Outlaw, Josie Wells.
And in the South, you were considered that was part of the smuggling, right? That was
of course, yeah.
Smuggling liquor. So
you were a criminal before you started, and a daredevil.
And even though the Pettys are anti-alcohol, Richard Petty, no alcohol, had nothing to do with the smuggling side of things. But that's the perception. It was all about perception. As we know in society, it takes one to make the perception for everyone.
We were just looking at that 26R Lotus.
Look at that.
There he is.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. That's poetry to me.
I agree. Poetry in motion right there.
Oh,
almost did the Zanardi, the Alex Zanardi.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday. There was a couple of those.
Yeah, we've been discussing the Zanardi line. We caught a lot of Formula One cars.
I call it the Casey Stoner line.
Yeah.
He did it on 2 wheels.
Yeah. But there's a great shot here. Turns 10 and 11. Talk about turns 10 and 11 here, James.
Well, you know, the corkscrew, coming out of the corkscrew, 8, 8A, and 9, you're picking up speed. You're going downhill. 10 is a downhill right-hander. For me, it's pretty hairy because I'm just going pretty fast and may run out of road, as we get to the outside of it. Then going into 11, it's sort of, a little bit of a mystery as to whether or not my brakes are going to work. The 120 has 4-wheel drum brakes. Sometimes braking that car is actually more of a suggestion than really, So I'm a little uptight.
I think we should brake, don't you?
And by the way, one year in the old configuration, turn 11 was called turn 8, which is now turn 10.
Well, yeah, because you were here before the Andretti hairpin.
Yes.
The old,
that's correct.
So when men were men.
And so, but what happened? And my mom was actually here watching. I was having this great dice with John Sutton, who was in another white XK120, and he was kind of a hero to me. And we went through 8, right next to each other, and I'm trying to go inside him onto 9, right before the main straight. However, I back off. I'm ready to brake. My foot goes to the floor. I have no brakes.
Oh,
I cannot make the turn. I go straight, and they mistakenly left a gate open to a pedestrian path. I went up the pedestrian path behind the grandstands, and from everybody in the stands, and it was packed, it appeared that I somehow vanished into another dimension. I got the car slowed down. The race ended. I came back down the pedestrian path, through that gate, back onto the track, into the impound area. When I went across the track, everybody in the stands went crazy. I mean, it looked like it was some kind of magician's act. It was sheer, luck. And I got to tell you, I feel there's been an angel that's following me around, and when I get in trouble, that angel steps in and interferes, and I know a lot of people out there feel the same way.
Oh, of course. I mean, I look at this era, and this era, as you mentioned it, this was not the pinnacle of safety in motorsports. This is why we are as safe as we are now. We learned great lessons from this era of motorsports, and then some as the decades progress. We're still learning, right? Aero screen and bars and things like that in modern open-wheel cars. We're still obviously learning the best thing to do safety. I've mentioned it more times than not this weekend. Not only were the men and women that strapped themselves in the race cars in the day were so brave, you all in the modern era strapping yourselves in these and putting on a show for us, equally if not more brave, because like Dorsey mentioned and you've brought attention to, tire technology is better. The fuels are better. The oils are better. We're making more power whether you like it or not. The tires have more grip whether you like it or not. Arguably, would you say these cars are sometimes getting exercised harder than they were in the era that they raced?
Oh, I think that they are. Some drivers take it pretty easy, but other guys really, really push it. In fact, the 911 driver and the Lotus Super 7 are just having a great dice.
I know, we've been watching 2 Lotuses. We've been watching that 26R, and now we're watching that Super 7. That is getting dwarfed a little bit by what is still a tiny car.
Well, you guys are doing great coverage, because when I try to explain to other people to come to watch, what you want to find is the race within the race.
Right.
Oftentimes, the guy with the most money and the highest horsepower and the greatest skill and the hottest looking girlfriend, he wins the race. He just runs off and runs away. But you want to find the race within the race. And it could be somebody dicing for 20th position. It doesn't matter. Those guys are driving as hard as they can.
Oh, my dad always said that you work a lot harder to finish 20th than you do to win a race. And what he meant by that is the car that it takes and everything that it takes to win a race, almost the job becomes easy because everything was working so well. Where when it's not always, there's sometimes a lot of reasons why you're in that, maybe in the position back there. Feeling right, you got a different problem, whatever. But nonetheless, there's like you said, that race within a race, to use your term, is brilliant, and we find that within modern racing as well. And I appreciate you bringing a point to the coverage, because it is very good how they've rotated around. You know, so often in modern racing, we stick on the leaders, and that's not really where the race is.
Well, I don't know who the camera guys are, but they are finding the race within the race, and I really compliment them. They're doing the right thing.
Well, I can assure you that all the people involved on this event are, well, they love their motorsport. From around the world. They absolutely adore it, and they've been to many a motor racing, most modern. We were in Nashville covering Adam Andretti last weekend in Nashville. So yeah, they're all fans of the racing, so they'll appreciate your comments for sure.
Technology that allows this kind of coverage with the drones and you have got every part of the racetrack covered. I mean, one of the reasons that I really like the movie Grand Prix, that John Frankenheimer, the Formula One epic, right, was because they had really great in-car camera footage. And then, as I'm sure you guys know, the camera car was a GT40, which is super, super cool. And so when I was young, I loved that movie because I wanted to have the feel of being in the car, and that was the first movie that really gave me that feel. Now, as I've watched that movie over and over again, unfortunately, I realize the story is so tragic. It's such a sad movie.
Yeah.
You know, and an interesting side note about that, one of my kind of hero actors was James Garner. Based in 1985 in the inaugural Palm Springs Vintage Grand Prix that was through the streets. They were going to have a celebrity race, and James Garner was going to drive my car, which I really thought was cool. Right?
Yeah.
However, a hurricane came through, blew down the grandstands. It was in November. It was the weekend after Thanksgiving, and the celebrity race did not happen. But Sterling Moss was there, Phil Hill was there, Carroll Shelby was there. I think Dan Gurney was there.
Oh, wow.
It was, it was a...
The who's who.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There was a huge banquet, and it was just super cool.
Oh, that sounds
We've got a great battle going on here between
the
the 65 Lotus, the 26R, the number 37, just ahead of the 99 from 64. And they're chasing down that Porsche. Great story, James. Look, we've got a really good group of Lotuses here this year.
Really, you do.
Yes.
Yeah, really do.
Really impressive. And quite, eclectic group. We just saw that yellow and white. We're seeing the classic colors here.
Well, and look at the green with the yellow stripe.
Beautiful.
I mean, that's certainly a classic Lotus color.
Yeah, that screams Lotus, does it not?
Yeah, these three are just having a great race. I apologize. I say these three.
Oh.
I mean, these three that the cameras are on.
Well, we've been saying all weekend long that this right here is what makes the dinner time and bar time stories. You know, this vintage and historic racing is all about, what we get to talk about afterwards, like all racing. We love to share the war stories and talk about, I was catching you there at the end, and if my brakes wouldn't have faded, I had you, and there's so much that goes on, and I see that developing when That's right. I can hear the stories already.
He's got him.
Now look at this. Yeah, this is of course a relatively modern 911.
Yeah.
And the Lotus, is that an Elan or Elite? I get those names mixed up, but man, that's a giant killer.
It really truly is. No, it really truly is. It's that 71, that's a 67 911S. George Randall Smalley is behind the wheel of that.
And who's in the Lotus right behind him? Because that guy is doing a great job.
Michael Malone.
Well, that guy is just doing a great job. He's hounding that.
Yeah, he is. He's got him now. I think coming into Rainey. On the inside, he makes his move. No, not quite.
It looks like he's got to run into 10.
Well, the Porsche is driving very defensively.
Oh, now on the inside, he's making the block pass. Side by side.
Okay, he's got him.
He's got him.
Oh, that's great.
Now let's see if he can set sail. This is now it's about putting open that gap.
Back comes the Porsche on the inside.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, now is the time for him to exercise course management. I don't call that blocking. I call that course management.
Course management.
I like that. I'm going to use that next time I'm called to the steward's office.
Drag race down into Andretti. The Porsche's got the inside line, but the Lotus says no. The 37, I'm going to keep my foot in. Looks great from the drone.
So what Malone is home for right there is
he got him!
He's got him.
He got him.
He threw
both
that
have
dart
gone through.
backwards. He threw that dart backwards, didn't he, in there?
That's
Way
right.
too much momentum.
That's right.
Snap of the release.
And we
of
got
the brake
another
pedal.
spin up.
That's right.
That looks like a Datsun, doesn't
And
it?
he let off instead of keep.
Exactly. The big, the cardinal error.
Yeah.
You know, when you got, don't jump off the throttle. We say that with the kids, right?
Yeah.
Before they
Yeah.
slide. That throttle is your friend, and that's what we're really teaching is.
Well, it's when you think you're losing control, it's hard to make your right foot push down, go faster.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It doesn't compute at first, does it?
It's like those unintended accelerations. They feel like they're on the brake pedal, and they're not. They're on the gas pedal, so they won't lift their foot off because if I lift, I'm really going to crash, right? So then they end up driving right in the convenience store.
And now they're about to upset another German marque. They've got a couple of BMWs in their way. One of the Lotus has already dispensed with him.
Okay, lap 8 of 9, so I don't believe that 911 is going to catch the Lotuses.
Oh, but what
unless there's mistakes.
Zanardi.
Unless there's key mistakes and key errors.
Well, and when it's one thing to be behind somebody because you're sort of more in control. When you're in front, you can start looking at your mirrors and forget your line. You can miss your marks, and all of a sudden you're in the dirt.
Yep. Now talk to me. How do these historic cars feel around lap 8 and 9? Of these races, they're probably pretty sloppy on the tires.
Oh, absolutely.
Brakes
Things are getting greasy. Things are sliding around. The brakes become more of a hit and miss situation. I mean, it's again, I admire these guys that do this at this level because it is not easy.
No, it is not. No, we've been saying that all weekend long. If you think that this is just some friendly lapping days, it's not. This is the real deal, and we've seen it. I mean, we've seen the 930, a 962 Porsche with Bruce Canepa behind the wheel get doored by a Mark Toyota prototype.
That's right, yesterday.
You're talking a couple $1 million worth of product out there just smacking into each other. Yes,
Right.
it's serious.
Yes. Yep.
Well, we saw that the Repsol painted sports prototype go.
We basically figured that the one driving that Toyota wanted to have lunch with Mr. Thorsten Schrader.
Well, with Bruce's lawyer, I think. This is the 911. It's probably gonna win. That's the leader.
There he is,
correct.
coming out of the last quarter.
Now look at that. Okay, he wins, which is great, but he's all alone. I personally think that he might be happier in 5th position having the dice of his life.
Yeah, but he's got the hot girlfriend if we go by your theory.
I'll check her out.
Okay. Well, we're having
more
some
than
lovely...
entertaining, sir. You're more than entertaining.
Talking of which, more entertainment. Another car spun round backwards.
It's like, that wasn't after the checkers, but.
You've been listening to James Alder from Reno, Nevada, who drives his Jaguar XK120 each and every year to the Monterey Reunion. And I know he's having a good time.
I'm having a great time. How can you not?
How can you not?
And as you all know, racing cars, whether it's a modern car, whether it's a vintage car, it's generally speaking the most fun that you can have with your clothes on.
I think so.
Absolutely. It's addicting, and I tell people that all the time. I said this is racing is a drug. It is no different. It's expensive. I've seen families busting up over it. It's dangerous, but it's definitely it has its hooks in you. You can't let go. I can't tell you how many people I've seen try to leave the sport and it pulls them right back in. It's one of those things where, and the community is what always draws you back, right? You alluded to it. The paddock here at the Historics is second to none for camaraderie and helping.
The camaraderie and the friends that I've met over the years. I really feel home at the racetrack, to be perfectly frank with you. It's a great environment. It's a great environment and a really supportive environment. Of course, everybody has the same substance abuse problem. In this case, it's racing.
Yeah, right.
Talking of a man who's definitely got a racing problem, and that is Kev, because I know he's enjoyed every moment of this weekend. Let's head down to Kev Harris one time, again, in the paddock.
Yeah, I certainly am, Johnny. How about this? Enjoying every moment. And I've found an absolute monster down here in Trans Am Alley from the 90s. What a machine this thing is. And I've managed to catch up with the man who's looking after it for the weekend, Chad Rail from Impeccable Inc. And he's got an impeccable collection of cars, I'll tell you, that he's looking after this weekend. Chad, thanks ever so much for taking the time to talk to us. this is just one of the cars that you're looking after this weekend. And I was here with Dorsey Schroeder yesterday, and he said, I probably made some of the marks on the edges of this car.
I'm sure he did. He was a phenomenal competitor in the Trans Am Series, and this car was driven by Scott Sharp and Dorsey Schroeder and a lot of the Ford guys, and some of Scott Sharp's own teammates gave him a lot of a hard time in 91.
And the great thing is, as we were just talking about before, like, people don't realize that when these things are done on the racetrack at the end of that season or the end of that year, unless somebody takes them on, they're just going to end up being a very expensive flower pot.
Absolutely, yeah. The owner of this car was actually so Chevrolet sponsored this car, or ran this car and supported this car in 91. Yeah. Then it was bought by a fellow, and then the current fellow bought it in about 2014. Has been running it ever since. All the original bodywork, all the original scars.
It's fantastic. It's really good. And just one of, I think, about 4 or 5 cars you're looking after this weekend. 10 cars this weekend. And you have managed to bring one of your own as well. That's at the far end. You got a Camaro?
Yeah, I have a 69 Camaro that I run in the historic Trans Am class.
Fantastic. Been comes to this event for a number of years as well.
Since 99. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just spin around, Chad, as well, because let's just talk about this blue one. Step this way for a second, because your company's called Impeccable Ink, and the bodywork on this, I'm going to use that one again. It is impeccable. Tell us a little bit about this one.
This is a really neat car. This car was a 1968 Shelby Trans Am car. It's the first car that Carcraft, a subsidiary of Ford, kind of put together as a full Trans Am effort. Carroll Shelby Racing, or Shelby American, actually raced the car in 68. This car was run by Dan Gurney, Jerry Titus, Parnelli Jones, Horst Queck, all in 1 year.
What?
It's just, it's as good as it gets. What's really neat is a Carcraft employee bought this car from Ford Motor Company for $1 after the 1968 season. He kept it, and this car was found with its original blue paint and the number 2 still on it in the early 2000s. So it's just a stunning, saved car that exists exactly as it did in 68.
Just great provenance, great heritage. You just ticked off all the names that you need.
It gets.
It is as good as it gets, isn't it? And
yeah.
Oh boy. I mean, let's continue, because there's another one here. This is, I mean, for me, as I was just chatting to you, when you walk down Trans Am Alley, folks, you just don't know which one to pick as a favourite, because there are so many. But personally, I'm starting to get an affinity for some of these late 60s, mid 70s kind of Trans Am cars. And right here, this it looks like it's come out of a Hot Wheels box, and there's a good reason for that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first cars with corporate sponsorship. So this is a 1970 AAR Cuda, first driven by Dan Gurney for the first couple races in 1970, then driven by Swede Savage. So when it was Gurney, it was 48. When it was Swede Savage, it was 42. But Hot Wheels sponsored it in 1970. Again, in Trans Am, I think the first corporate sponsorship in Trans Am.
Just unbelievable. The first corporate sponsorship in Trans Am. Stroll this way. And when you think about that now, folks, all of motorsport wouldn't exist without corporate sponsorship,
there's
would
not
it?
enough money in the races to actually make it happen. So either you're extremely wealthy in doing this, or you get somebody like a corporation to help you do it.
And Chad, I like your story actually, because I said to you, how did you get going with Impeccable Ink? And just kind of happened, and now look at what you're doing. Tell us that.
Yeah, so maybe back in 2012, 2013, I was running my own car, and then I helped a friend buy another one of these historic Trans Am cars. He couldn't get it ready in time, so my dad and my uncle helped me kind of work on the car, and we got it running, and then he kept on wanting to have us support his cars, so that's how it all turned out.
That's how it starts, folks. If you want to get into motorsport, there are plenty of different ways to do it. You don't have to be a billionaire, just start working hard, and people hopefully will spot that, and look at where you're at right now. This man's got 10 cars here this weekend that he's looking after. And we're going to finish on this one, I think, because, again, another one. It's just an absolute beaut. Look at it.
Yeah, this is a really neat car. This is a 1967 Shelby Group 2 car. They built 26 of these cars at Shelby American for customers. They actually, of those 26, some of them were factory cars. This was driven for a guy named Bob West, who was an amazing jazz musician, co-writer of the Jackson's Five's some of their songs, a really good guitarist, but also a race car driver. So just a neat car. Started racing in 67, all raced until the early 70s, and then found and then resurrected.
Like so many of these cars, found and resurrected. They're coming out of barns, and then it takes guys like yourself to just sort of get them set up and race spec ready once again. And just a quick word, I'm noticing in this one, it's a race car, but it's still got 2 seats up front.
Yeah, this car still has 2 seats. The original tracks and all that stuff were all in it, and it runs 2 of the race seats. And actually, the driver and his father actually took it down to one of the opening car shows the first day of the weekend. So we were nervous because we didn't want to wreck a race car going to a car show, but it did well for them. They had a good time.
It's just fantastic. And, folks, I mean, it's the last day here at Monterey at Laguna Seca, and sadly it's the last day, but if you can start booking your tickets for next year, you really need to get on that. You're going to meet guys like Chad, you're going to see cars like this, and you're in the California sunshine. It does not get better. Right, don't go anywhere, because when we come back after the break, historic racing action continues out on track, and we'll see you just as soon as we can.
To high above Laguna Seca. We are just above the corkscrew right now in one of our drone shots, and like I said, this is Laguna Seca. What does it mean? It means dry lake. Well, you said that's not dry, Johnny. Well, that's not a real lake. That's an artificial lake. So dry lake is what Laguna Seca means, and you can see the river basin, or the lake basin that it's built in here in the Monterey Hills. We're about 10 miles outside of Monterey itself, and there's plenty of things going on. I can assure you, they've got Concours d'Elegance, they've got auctions, and now we've got something really special, because we've got cars from, well, all the way back to 1920, all the way up to 1951. And once again, I'm going to bring in James Alderhickers. He's having a lot of fun, and I'm sure he'll have a fair few words to say about some of the mechanical situations with these cars.
These cars are just really fantastic. I mean, we're looking at an ERA here. There's 2 ERAs in this group. And they are a pre-war hot rod, as all we'll see momentarily. I had a great chat earlier today with Paddens. That's the first name of one of the drivers of the ERA. Yep. And he reckoned his car was very similar to the Spitfire that came really this. It was developed in the late 30s. And I actually always would fantasize my XK120 as being the Spitfire and the Mercedes 300 SLs as being the ME109s.
Yeah.
I wanted to continue on, the Battle of Britain.
Well, I made a point to Adam, which he picked up on. You know, when you look at the era of the late 40s and early 50s, it was, airplane engines, and it was fighter pilots from World War II that kind of were the daredevils that replaced, were replaced by racing drivers, and that's where the boys' own feel of motor racing kind of developed.
I agree. It's a wonderful, great era. So these 2 ERAs are on the pole, and you all will see why shortly. By the way, this, I think it's a Type 35 Bugatti, the lighter blue one.
That's lovely.
Now I believe it's an unsupercharged inline 6. Maybe you can confirm that for me, Adam, but it's driven very, very well by whoever that driver is. Now, I'm good friends with Luca Maicicescu, who is in Type 37A supercharged Bugatti, and he had a great race earlier with that V12 Lagonda.
Yeah, that's a really cool car, to that green. That's a big car.
Oh, it's a big car. I call that, there it is right there, I call that the pre-war Batmobile. Yeah. I mean, it is really
beautiful
cool.
Tail on that car.
Beautiful.
It's almost like our first look.
Yep, the Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion 1920 to 1951 Racing Cars Group is brought to you by the Laguna Seca Raceway Foundation.
37A is blue. Next to him is the 33 of Lester.
It makes it look, I mean, that right there, to me, what we're talking about is that Lagonda, that V12. On the tail of that, it looks like the first look of aerodynamics somewhat. The tail of these cars, too, it gives us our first look at really shaping the car to move through the air.
Well, of course, what they thought was the proper shape, because it looked correct visually. Now, it probably isn't correct if we have it in a wind tunnel.
Right.
But these cars have great style, and very high performance. I mean, you know, a Type 35 Grand Prix Bugatti is just an absolute fantastic car.
Yeah.
You know, lightweight, fast.
Purpose built to do one thing, right? As a thoroughbred. Go
Yes.
out there and tackle the racetracks and beat whoever came up against it. What I love too is no seatbelts, right? I mean, there's these cats are out here with no seatbelts on, a lot of them, because it wasn't in those cars.
Well, they have now,
All of
but
them?
back in the day,
Okay.
they
I did see some
didn't.
shoulder straps on people.
Yeah, maybe not shoulder, maybe
lap
just
belt.
a lap belt. But back in the day, they didn't. You know, they thought it was safer to be thrown from the vehicle.
Yeah, get away from that heavy car.
How do you get on? When I look at these cars, I always think of the tyres and how they get them and how they replace them and how they wear them. I mean, obviously your car a little bit more modern, but not that far off. I mean, do you struggle with getting replacements?
Yes. Now, I race actually on street tires.
Okay.
Because I drive the car here.
Right.
Race on street tires. And I really want to be competitive on the street tires, but this, of course, is a disadvantage. But these are Blockley race tires and duck that are made specific for these old cars, and they're old racing compounds like they were when they're new.
That's interesting.
That is.
They use the same compound.
My understanding is they do, and it's a high performance racing compound of the day.
I didn't think we could use those chemicals anymore.
Now, let's just keep that a secret.
Yeah.
We are in California.
Yeah,
So.
the carcinogen warnings on everything.
Yeah. Well, life will kill you.
Yes, it will, eventually.
What won't?
As Spike Milligan once said, I told you I was ill.
They're lined up 2 by 2 as they come through turn 10 to 11, getting ready. The pace car's going to peel off nice and late, like they have all weekend long in that beautiful Lexus RCF.
You know, this is a great group. If there's any, listeners out there that are interested in vintage racing and have the means to get a pre-war car, this is just one of the funnest group to race with.
It's so neat. I mean, and I love when they do the period helmets, with the open face and the scarf or the bandana. It just really, it makes you, like we've been saying, click your heels 3 times and you're back in the 20s.
No question about it. 1920 to 1951. Enjoy, folks.
Watch these ERAs go through the Andretti hairpin here. I mean, these are very, very good drivers. And that Bugatti, that Type 35 that's in third position,
it's been showing a lot of speed this whole weekend long.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah, that Type 35
there he is.
Right here, this number 11 is with Nathaniel Green behind the wheels.
And look at that.
Holding a pretty wheel.
And our cameraman
Really
giving us
just
a
nice,
great
steady,
illustration of
one
how the wheel is used and how big those wheels are.
You need the leverage, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
You got to have the leverage on it because no power
And on
steering.
these, of course.
Well, the ERA's pulling away from the Bugatti. That's a tiny car, too. We had a close look at it yesterday, and, it looks impressive on track, but it's a tiny little thing.
I like that takes the body English, right? The leaning into the corner.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's athletic. I mean, this is athletic. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, I always debate. I will debate till I'm blue in the face on that. Race car drivers are athletes, and I know how hard I have to work at. I've watched, a whole group of people, friends, family, whatever, how hard they have to work, and I know you guys do no different. I mean, no power steering and no power brakes and. No straight cut gearboxes. It's you're working in those cars.
I don't have to spend much time in the sauna. I get it.
No, I can imagine. Yeah. And the man in second place, Paddings Dowling, a very famous historic driver. I've seen him race at the Monaco Historics and at Coda. And here at, here in Sonoma and here at Laguna Seca.
Great chat with him earlier. Yeah, really, really nice.
Really nice
person.
guy, huh?
Yep.
Oh, he just lost to the Lagonda. The Lagonda got around
now
that.
Luca is trying to make the move on that Lagonda. It's that Lagonda's got a lot more power, even though the Bugatti is supercharged. I believe it's only 1.5 liters.
Well, that's a V12. He's got under that beast. What a
Whoa,
beast!
whoa.
Whoa!
All right, Luca's got his chance now. If he can keep it going, keep it together.
Oh, that's great.
The V12 is going to stretch its legs, though. Looks like up the hill here to the start.
Yeah, but if Luca can stay on the inside, he's going to be able to out-handle that. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to quite do that.
I tell you what, you want to know about bravery? This just about, cross-corrected over there out of turn 11.
Yeah.
It didn't hesitate. We're back to full throttle. Going to make that pass right back and get down to that Andretti hairpin as quick as we can. I love that spirit.
David and Goliath, without a doubt.
And again, my hat's off to the cameramen. Look at where they're finding the action.
Yep. And look at that. And I like this because you can see the wheel working, and you can see how much their input is.
It was a shot like that where I said it could go back and looks like Sterling Moss, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's really the beauty of the older cars. I mean, the spectators can see the driver. They can see their hands. You can see the driver working the car. In a modern car, sure, they're super fast, but I don't think you get the visual entertainment that you do with these.
I think you're right.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. No, I couldn't agree more. And that's, it does make it look a little bit more robotic. You know they're working in there. You know how the hard work it takes to drive a race car in any era. But you're right. It's because the cars are so stuck to the track. They've got so much grip nowadays that they don't really move around. And that's what I love about the Trans Am series that I compete in is the cars still move around. You know, it's like the Trans Am of old. Cars are still moving around. It's exciting for the fans to watch. They know they can see the work. But they, like you said, this old era, you can actually see inside and see the driver work. And that's what I love about even modern day sprint car and midget racing, is because you can still see the drivers working.
Well, and these cars are raced by the seat of their pants.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no aero grip. It's all mechanical grip.
Well, the Bugatti's staying with him through rainy, and in fact is gaining on him here in the downhill section. Letting it drift downhill and getting very close indeed at 10.
Luca lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Great guy. Works actually in Los Alamos.
And Luca's in the 31, the Bugatti, correct?
Yes. Luca Maicicescu, he's a Romanian. Look at he's making the inside move on 11.
Again.
Oh, boy.
Another drag race.
Going. I think he's got a hand pump fuel pressure in that Bugatti. I think there's a fuel pump.
Oh, that's so cool.
With his left hand that he has to operate.
Is that what he's actuating as he's coming out of turn 11?
Yes.
That's great.
I see it. I see that T-handle right there.
Wonderful shot, Hamish. Nice work. Look at this.
Oh, man.
Again,
look how close he is.
That little Bugatti can really roll the corner and make up a lot of time mid-corner, but then when it comes to getting the power, and that V12, you just have nothing for the V12.
As I'm sure you all know, Alan DeCanaday, he did a great video called Mark of a Legend or Legend of a Mark, and it was about great cars of the era, and the Bugatti Type 35 was one of the cars he featured, and if you have not seen that video, you got to watch that.
I will look it up for sure. You got me intrigued. A little bit of a gap stretching here. Between Richard and Luca.
But he's hanging on, and this is where he makes up. He stays with him up the hill, and then as they head out of the corkscrew, he's just able to gap and get closer to him towards 10.
Luca drives a really nice line around WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. I've noticed that. Pretty line. He's driving exactly where you want to see him to place the car. He's putting it.
And believe me, they say vintage racing, they're like, 8.5, 9/10. No, I know Luca is driving that car as fast as he possibly can. And I'm sure the Lagonda is doing everything he can to stay ahead. That's why he got out of shape in 11.
For sure.
He was worried about Luca, and he should be.
Yep, that he should be. Look, now watch. Now we can see it from the drone.
This is
again.
The Bugatti section of the track right here.
That's right.
Look at him. He's got within, 2 car lengths, and as he comes into 10, he'll brake as late as he dare and just almost come alongside, but not quite.
Yeah, I'm afraid he's going to have to pass him earlier in the course in order to have a chance to stay ahead by start-finish.
Yes.
That Lagonda's got a little bit too much acceleration for him.
There it comes again. The excitement for us here again.
He's got him on the inside, hasn't he? But now the V12.
Big thumbs up. Look at the camaraderie. Gosh,
Lovely.
We love it.
And by the way, as you can see, over 80 miles an hour.
just absolutely beautiful.
He just needs to get him on the inside at 10, and he might just make it.
Yeah, maybe if he can get him on the inside going into the corkscrew, he might have a chance of staying ahead.
Yeah,
he gets pretty close here too. Look.
Yeah. Look at the negative camber on the front wheels of that Bugatti.
Actually,
you're right.
Positive.
It's positive,
That's positive.
I got to talk to Luca about that. I think he'd get some more handling if he had those Hey.
Yeah, I would guarantee it. I would guarantee it because there's a lot of deflection in that wheel, too, when it's
Yeah.
happening like that. So,
Why is it that the old cars you often see in a positive position as opposed to negative? Did they just not understand it at that time?
I think that's the way they ran them on the wagons, right? With the horse-drawn wagon to keep it tracking straight.
Okay.
So that's the only way they knew about tracking straight. So was to put that positive camera in, because then you're not really worried about. You can see it's towed out,
And I'm sure
like something crazy. So but it's tracking straight. For them. So I think that's where that comes from.
And I'm sure
incredible comparison to bring it up from the horse and buggy era.
but also the suspension was so
like we're not
rude.
far from it.
Well, I'm sure it has leaf spring, probably front suspension.
Well, that's what I'm
transversely
thinking.
mounted.
Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Here we go then. Up to the corkscrew again. This lovely battle we've been watching. A sort of David and Goliath, so to speak, between the Lagonda V12 from 1959.
I gotta imagine that big, heavy Lagonda at this point in the race, halfway point, the brakes are really starting to feel spongy, and the tires have got a lot of heat in them, especially sliding around out of 11. So I'd be interested to see how the rest of this race plays out with that battle, too.
Well, if he can hang on, again, it's a tribute to the driver. Now, again, look at the two ERAs in the front
leading
here.
the right.
And they've got a good little battle going. I mean, this is a tight little race here. Leader cannot make a mistake because we're going to pounce right here in P2, no problem.
And the leader is the older car, the 1934 ERA R2A. Just splendid.
Just love that. I love the action coming down the corkscrew like that, especially with these little cars and narrow tires. Lots of wheel on the tires, a lot of leverage, and but no actual contact patch to hold that leverage.
Certainly very little contact patch.
Yeah, like I'd say 2 fingers maybe. Like a motorcycle contact patch is what they're working with now.
Yeah. Nice, cool, crisp California afternoon.
They're going to give it all full 9 laps. This morning, because of the power outage, they shortened the races.
Yeah, I noticed. We did notice that because the time just pushed back.
This is great. I want these drivers to get their money's worth.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, we were all heartbroken for the competitors because we were thinking, wow, I mean, all that work. And then they, Group B sits around yesterday and watches Group A have all the fun. And then for Group A to for Group B to lose some time this morning, but HSR did a fantastic job of getting it back on schedule so they could have their full afternoon.
Well, I've seen very few, full course cautions. I mean, this is, the drivers are doing a great job and the organizers are doing a great job. This has been one of the cleanest events so far, really.
Yeah, it really truly has. It looks great, and
and it's certainly not for hard driving because these guys are driving hard. They are going for it,
and we have seen that, obviously. But Dorsey Schrader and Stevie D, Steve DeBreck down there, and race control are the stewards, and I think they laid down the law quite well and set expectations very well, and we've seen a lot of respect out there without giving up the hard-nosed racing.
Quick glimpse there of the Miller Schofield Ford, the AAA big car.
Battle's back on.
Yep, certainly
Gap
is.
is tight again.
Well, this is as close as he's been, and now he's taken to the outside, and the Lagonda says, "Take it, sir."
That was a little gentleman point by.
Yeah.
Again,
he probably knew that Luca was going to be able to pass. Luca went through turn 10 just fantastically. Can he stay ahead by start finish?
No, but it could be a lineup for what could be the finish line.
That's correct.
In a couple of laps, so he's got the measure of him.
85 miles an hour they came across the line. That is incredible for this era of car.
It is.
Because they came out of that corner like 30.
Yeah.
So to accelerate 50 miles an hour to this point, that gets me going. That really puts it to perspective.
No, that's a very, very high speed. You need to be going 150 in a modern car to get that same level of exhilaration.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, they're all having a wonderful afternoon out here. I hope you're enjoying it. Whether you're tuning in on our live stream around the world, you're listening to Adam Andretti and James Alder. James has been out there pedaling away in his Jaguar all weekend long, as he always does. Been doing it over 30 years now. And I think, this is just as enjoyable. I bet you didn't like 2020 when you couldn't come.
Well, actually, they did have a low-key, what they call the Driver's Appreciation Weekend in 2020. However, it was not incident-free for me. Remember when I told you there was about 6 times when I couldn't drive my car home? Well, last year was one of them. I hold a piston on free and had to actually ask my neighbor to get my Land Rover, and then we borrowed a trailer and took the 120 home.
Aww.
It was miserable.
I'll bet.
Hated it.
Well, yeah.
There's another Bugatti, 1925 this time.
That's such a neat car. We, like you said, we've been admiring that little Bugatti for the whole weekend as well.
He's fast too. I think he's in 3rd position behind the 2 ERAs.
It's a good battle for the last spot there on the podium, if you will.
That's Nathaniel Green at the wheel.
Look at the patina on that. I mean, it could have just come right out of Monaco that year, that era.
I couldn't agree more. That's what I've loved about that car is one of the cars that really kept very original.
Yeah, you're right. He is in 3rd place. Yeah, he is in 3rd place.
So I don't know if one of the ERAs have dropped out. I haven't. You guys will have to maybe clarify that for me. And if that's the case, then that Bugatti is in 2nd position.
Yeah, good point. How about that Studebaker? I like that too. I went up close to that Studebaker IndyCar this morning as they were getting it prepared. The one behind the Bugatti we're looking at now as he leads in. Another giant killer battle between these two. Up to the corkscrew they come.
Throwing it down.
Yep.
Cars, of course, are drum brakes, but some of them are just cable operated. This is pre-hydraulic brakes.
Right, yeah.
So talk about braking as being a suggestion.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, exactly. And I mean, I imagine some of them too, I would have an adjustment, be able to adjust that on the fly. So as your brakes are wear, you can actually pull the cable tight.
And or as the cable stretches.
Yeah, right.
Running 3rd, Nathaniel Green in his 1925 Bugatti Type 35. 4th spot is 118 James Cleary.
So, getting down to the end of our Group 3B. This is the afternoon session of the 4-day reunion here at Monterey. And as you heard just a moment ago, they didn't have the full event last year because of COVID. And I think everybody's just glad to be here and get out in the sunshine, fans included.
We have some fans here in the stands already, which is beautiful here this afternoon, and the paddock is actually quite full. Got a lot of action going on down there. And the RVs are still here in droves, so people are still definitely enjoying our historics there.
There's your leader. 1934 ERA, and it's the 1936 ERA. Still there in 2nd place, so no, he hasn't dropped off.
Jonathan, you're familiar with what the ERA stands for.
Now, I do know that.
Yes.
It's not earned runs average.
No, it's not earned run average. It's English Racing Automobile.
No, I didn't know that. I thought it was something else, to be honest.
Yes, no, English Racing Automobile. And I believe the people that created the ERAs were the same people that created the BRM.
Right.
And that stood
Racing.
for British Racing Machine.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong here.
No, that's absolutely right.
I think you're dead on. That's a great little bit of trivia for us. Great little bit of trivia.
Yeah. Well, people think of AC Cobra as an all-American thing. Well, where do you think the AC came from?
Oh, I know. And I straighten people on that all the time. Yeah.
Yes, we've had a good intermingle as Brits and Americans.
Of course. It's been a wonderful relationship.
Yeah.
We're working the final lap here for these 2 ERAs that we're speaking of.
And they are getting close here.
They are. This could be a run to the grid. This could be a run to the checker.
And I don't think this is staged.
No, not at all.
I don't think this is like big-time wrestling.
Well, with Paddock's Dowling at the wheel, no, absolutely not. He likes to win.
Well, yeah.
And win hard.
Yes.
I was amazed at Monaco. He was just thrashing cars around there. So we come to the conclusion of our latest group.
Patton's in the lead?
No, he's second.
So could he? I think he's a little bit too far behind. There's just a little bit too much of a gap.
He definitely pushed it through 11. You could see a good amount of low understeer there. What a race right there to the end. I mean, that was almost over the
Oh, lovely. I misspoke. He was the winner, I am afraid. Yes, that's the other way around. It was Charles McCabe who was chasing him down in the 6th.
But I don't think he quite got it, did he? McCabe did not.
McCabe didn't get it. I think that's a win once again to Padding's Dowling.
Nathaniel Green place, James Cleary in 4th.
Great group, great bit of entertainment.
Okay, so it looks, did Luca stay ahead? No, Luca did. No, yes, he did. He finished ahead right now.
He's done it. Lovely. The Bugatti wins.
That little battle. Yeah.
And takes the checkered flag in the 31. Yes, I think that does deserve a round of applause. Lovely. Absolutely lovely.
That is always one of my favorite groups to go see. I like these and the ragtime racers. This is the foundation of our sport. This is really the basis of it, and showing the next level and how we got to the next upcoming decade.
I've just had a text from one of the fans watching saying, speaking of ERA and BRM, did you know that back in the 60s a hybrid meant it was a European car with an American engine?
Absolutely. Well, and of course, an Allard, as you know from our friend John Mote, he clearly explained that was really the first hybrid. Took an English chassis and a rather crude body, aluminum over ash frame, put a V8 in it, and there you go.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing, of course, that is interesting to see if they get a closer picture of the ERA and or the Bugattis, you'll see a chrome crank handle sticking out of the front to crank start that vehicle.
Just to confirm, it was Paddings at the wheel of that 1934. The older car beating the 1936 Charles McCabe at the wheel of those two ERAs. Nathaniel Green was third in that 1925 Bugatti. The Studebaker of James Cleary finished fourth. John Kerr fifth. And Luca, the man we've been talking about most of the race, the 1928 Bugatti beating the 1939 V12 Lagonda of Richard Morrison. Ivan Zaremba in 8th position, Lester Nadell in 9th, and Max Jameson in 10th.
You know, the gentleman in the 1932 Miller Schofield Ford, John Kerr, I believe he's 88 years old.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
I know. But this is what keeps people young.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I work and live to do this, and I'm not alone.
No, I know you're not. No, we talk about that all the time, and the racing keeps you youthful. And we talk about that with Dan Gurney turning 88 yesterday, celebrating his 88th birthday with us yesterday. We talk about that with George Fulmer, who's 87 years old.
Let's head down once again to Kev Harris. He's down in race control now.
Well, how about this, Johnny? I've got the scoop of the weekend. Dave Hinton here, president of HSR, has very kindly let us into the beating heart of Laguna Seca that is race control. David, thanks ever so much for letting us look around here this morning. We had a bit of a testing start, didn't we, fair to say, but all your guys worked hard and we're back up and racing.
Yeah, that was a new one. Complete power outage, heavy, dense fog. So we had to kind of sit things down for a little while till we got things sorted out. But the WeatherTech Raceway crew were amazing. Got us generators hooked up, got radios out to corner workers so we could get the show back on the road as quick as we could. And by lunchtime we were back on schedule.
Yeah, it's like nothing happened. The HSR guys did a fantastic job. They're sanctioning the whole event here at HSR. And this is where it all goes down. This is race control. So we've got Steve DB sitting behind us down here. We'll probably have a word with him in a second if we can. But tell us about what's going on the screens up here then.
So most racetracks, you're kind of restricted to a view out of a window to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
This racetrack's a little different. They have cameras set up at most of the corners, so we're able to look at these TV screens to see any incidents or any problems on the track, and we can get message out to the corner workers what we want them to do. So,
and it's really going well. Pictures are great. Steve, are we able to grab you? He's very busy. Steve DB, Chief Steward here for all of HSR events. Steve, thanks ever so much.
Yep, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for making us so welcome. What a weekend we've had here. Just give us a sense of how it's gone for you guys down here in race control.
Well, I tell you, it's been a challenge. We've had our ups and downs. This morning was a pretty decent challenge with the weather and the power outage. But John and the guys at the track here did an awesome job of getting us up and going. And I've been working with a really strong crew here. We've got Rhea Dodd and Barbara McLennan from SCCA. They're in contact with the corner workers on all the corners, and they've been doing an excellent job. Jim Rogowski is their chief of that group. San Francisco region SCCA does a brilliant job. Also, I've got Joe and Jamie. They're in control here, safety dispatch, and also anything that goes on in the paddock. They keep things going here. Anytime I have an incident to clean up, they are right on it, and they get it done for me. So it's been a pleasure working with this group, but it's been an honor for HSR to be out here and to be able to steward this event and to put our personality on it. That we have fun doing what we do, we enjoy doing what we do, and hopefully the competitors feel that as well. But
yeah,
you guys add a lot to it too. The TV feed has been brilliant. So I've been really enjoying that. And thanks for Lauren for getting us hooked up with what we've got in here. It's made our job a lot easier. So looking forward to finishing up strong here, and can't wait to come back next year, bigger and better.
Well, I think that's the sentiment of all of us. The guys at Greenlight TV have kind of worked out the park so far, doing a great job, and you'll probably want to get back in the hot seat and get the next race underway.
We've got about 5 minutes till we're coming up next here, so it's all good.
All right, well, we better let him get on with it. Steve, thanks ever so much.
All right,
and let's go. There's the shake of the hand, and let's get back to Johnny and Adam, who are up in commentary. How about that, boys? We're in the beating heart of Laguna Seca, race control.
Yes, and a busy race control too. Not an easy thing to do at an historic event. Yes, things may be a little slower, but there's a lot more, you could argue, on the line, given that most of these cars are $1 million plus in some cases. So we're just awaiting for the next group to come up. More racing to come from the final day of the reunion. And while we wait, let's take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back in a moment. Given that most of the A groups, and that's from yesterday, because it was Group A all day yesterday, or Group A's racing, and now it's all Group B's. So a lot of them have either gone to Pebble Beach or made their way home. So it's a slightly to be paddock compared. But the crowd is just as robust as it was yesterday. A lot of them down at Pebble Beach perhaps, but we get ready for our next group. There's the Bobsy Porsche, number 65. What a pretty thing that is. Coming up. The Manufacturers Group, it's called, the FIA Manufacturers Group. How about that, Adam?
A great group. Obviously a lot of factory work here in the Manufacturers Group, and see a lot of fun cars. Chevrons. There's a car that we really gained a lot of affection for here in this group today, and that is that Sauber, that C4. It's all green. It is actually Peter Sauber's first ever aluminum monocoque car, which is pretty neat.
Well, it was his first ever race design, I think.
The monocoque. It was his monocoque. Okay. Monocoque, yeah. Specifically monocoque. But that's going to be a fun car. Gunnar Jeanette, our good buddy, and commentary Cole Hart up here this weekend. Gunnar Jeanette, he's in that
the weekend with us.
Yeah, he's in that. Number 6, that is a Ford GT40. That's the last factory GT40 built. That stayed as a bare tub until, well, not that long ago. This is actually the first shakedown. This is the shakedown for that car. You go look at that car, and you think about it, it's a 1969 car. It looks brand new because the monocoque's never been used. It is one of the most beautiful things I've seen here this weekend is that version because, again, to see a car from that era that's never been used, never been run, and they're really kind of shaking it down this weekend, that's pretty special.
Oh, no question. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into this. It looks kind of, it looks kind of at ease, and everybody looks very relaxed. But the truth is, there's a lot of work that goes on here at the Monterey.
Oh, it's a massive amount of work. It's a massive amount of work.
The Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion FIA Manufacturers Group is brought to you by Haggerty Insurance. Haggerty got a great display just across the way and putting on a show. They had some autograph sessions there yesterday. And, the crowd enjoying.
I went and checked out that Mickey Thompson buggy, 1977 buggy over there, and when everyone else was running 4-cylinder Volkswagen engines, air-cooled engines in the desert, he decided to build that. I think it's a 327 cubic inch buggy, and everyone else had, I think they said 8 or 10 inches of suspension travel. Well, he came out of suspension travel, so it was it's a fascinating little machine to go check out. And we are rolling on pit road here and getting ready to go out with this group.
Some great sounds, some great different cars as well, very different. Yeah, Gunnar Jeanette's going to enjoy this, his last run. There he is, just passing underneath our drone in that number 6 baby blue. And there's even a lovely little Ford Escort out there that I rather fancy. Grew up watching, well, not watching, but mid-70s was all about the Ford Escort. That was the family car.
I noticed,
that was our Trans Am.
Yep. You're like, look at this little. And
that's Gunnar.
Yeah, there is Gunnar. You would point out to me, this is why English cars are the size they are. We have little streets.
Yeah.
Over there in England, we don't have these big roads.
It's pointless having a Lagonda.
Yeah, right.
Well, if you don't want to go anywhere,
right.
There are some big streets, if you go down Pall Mall, but that's about it.
Sure.
If you're visiting the Queen, then fine. The Lagonda's
you're good.
Apropos.
Yeah. Well, it would be a Queen.
But if you want to go to Cornwall, forget it. Okay, out they come.
There's that all green car there. That's the Sauber C4 that just moved through the shop there before we went back to the front of the field.
Yes, we'll talk more about that in a moment. Here it is, just popping out, just on cue.
On poles, that number 7, Mark Francis. He's in that 1964 Elva Mark 7. That is a verified original Elva chassis.
Yes.
The original Elva magnesium wheels, unaltered.
Yeah, so much sort of eye candy here this weekend. There really is. Everywhere you look, we've been, every time we've had a chance to leave the booth, we've been wandering up and down the pit and paddock lane and having a look. Lots to see. And they will now start to line up and get ready for their race. Here they come, the safety car. This is the penultimate race of the weekend. And I have to say, Hinton and his team have done a heck of a job. We just spoke to them, and I think...
absolutely brilliant job. Steve DeBrecht, we know him as Stevie D, affectionately. Known him a lot of years. A wonderful man. Not a better person you could ask to be in that position. He's calm. He's concise. He makes decisions quick and easy. And as we're lined up 2 by 2, coming around turn 11, going to face this green flag here momentarily, Jonathan.
Here we go, then. This is our manufacturers, the fans waving in front of a commentary booth as they roar into action here at Laguna Seca.
So Gunnar Jeanette from P3 is looking to make some move right there to contain his spot, make sure he stays right where he's at, although he's going to look like getting outbroke on the outside. Nice outbraking maneuver. A little tail happy with that little car, that little blue car on the outside of Gunnar.
Well, Gunnar's making good work of that as that lead group leads another GT40. That's Chris McAllister, I think.
That is Chris McAllister, yes.
Yeah, we had a closer look at his car. What a collection he's got here this weekend.
Here's one for you. That car was 40 sales brochure and featured in some magazine road tests. So
there you go.
That's got some great history to it as well.
These guys are not mucking about. I love it.
Yeah, no kidding, right? That is some serious racing here already with Gunnar.
There's your Sauber. Another Lotus. Great shots, guys. Thank you. Really nice and close. Really get a chance to see the difference in the sizes of the cars as they come towards us. Down the corkscrew they come. A little bit quicker than what we've seen so far, aren't they?
We're
change of pace.
We're gonna, the last session there to get through 9 laps, it took us, a little bit, in an era from the 20s to the 50s. However, you get into this era, the lap times are going to click off quite quick, and we're already going to circulate lap 2 here before you know it. It was like Formula One cars yesterday.
Yeah.
The session was over. We're like, where did that session go?
Whoa, little
That was a nice
little wiggle there from the 9.
Chris McAllister definitely laying the foot down on that. GT40.
1969 GT40.
Gunnar's finding the groove in his car, in his 1969 GT40, and pulling a little bit of gap and closing the gap to the top 2 as well at the same time. There's that Sauber C4, number 81. That's a neat looking car, and we met the gentleman that actually been caring for that car since it became into their ownership, and he was such a passionate mechanic about that car.
But very simple when up close, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, absolutely. It was quite simple, and to think that the legend himself, Peter Sauber, the legendary designer, diving into the monocoque design and aluminum monocoque design that is, and you think about Sauber still competing in Formula One today with underneath the Alfa Romeo, effectively. So it's just, that's one of those brands that's been able to hold strong, and it's good to see him out here.
Yeah, they did what so many teams were unable to do, which is fight above their weight in Formula One and stay there.
Right.
Never with the budget that they wanted, never with the backing that they wanted. But they managed to design good cars, stable cars, very similar to the Williams story in many ways.
But they launched so many careers into Formula One.
Oh, and how?
So many careers into Formula One have been launched through Sauber. I mean, Fernando Alonso to be one. Wasn't it Michael Schumacher was first in a Sauber before?
I think he was. I think he might be right, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many careers that Peter Sauber put into Formula One, legends of Formula One that we may have not even had a person like Peter Sauber not had the eye and taken the chance. So, what a fun race coming up through turn 1 here between 2 very different cars in the same class. Great racing again, as always, that we've had there all day long. Can't emphasize enough that this is not just lapping days. These guys are out there pushing it to the limits. I'm seeing triple digits down the front straightaway here. And I mean, you can see diving down to the inside.
That little Lotus 23B.
That cute little guy, isn't it?
Yeah, very. And what I love, I said there's so many Lotuses here, but all of them are so different too.
There is. It is. It's a totally different group of Lotus cars. I mean, it's one of those things. How much of it translates over? Like if you break down, can you go to the next Lotus guy and get a part?
Yes, good point.
It's such a different cars.
Yeah, very different cars. Certainly body shape wise. Yeah,
right. Mechanically, they might be recent.
What's under the body is probably similar in terms of parts, but
what a run through turn 6 that was.
Yes.
You want to talk about carrying your momentum up the Rahal straight into the corkscrew.
Bobby here, of course, as you saw earlier.
Good shot as they come through Wayne Rainey down into the hard braking zone into turn 10. This is why by the time you get to turn 11 here, what James was talking about, your brakes are almost cooked.
Yeah.
Because you've had the hard braking up at the up at the corkscrew. You come down into Rainey, which doesn't use much if any brake. But then down into turn 10, you really have to take some speed off the car downhill, and then again you're still going downhill 11. And like you would turn 11 is the slowest corner on the track next to the corkscrew.
Yeah, the 908 in white. Richard Giraud at the wheel.
And we are already circulating the halfway point of this race.
I know, it's nuts, isn't it? Got a group of fans in front of us really enjoying it, waving at their driver as he goes by, encouraging him on.
Love it. It's almost like there's a TV screen on because they face us for when they're not at the front straightaway and they turn back around.
Either they've got a big security detail or those are the mechanics on this team.
Right. But, I mean, the pit road is down to the end, all the way down to turn 11.
Good little battle ensuing here. The 37 of the 910, the 910 white and green of David Hagen. And, as I mentioned, the 264. With Richard Jura at the wheel as they come into corkscrew. Let's see if the 37 can make any inroads.
That green and white Porsche 910 that David Hagen is wheeling around there, that is chassis number 004. So it's the fourth of 29 of those 910s built for the 67 racing season. It was a factory works Porsche car driven by Joe Seifert and Hans Hermann.
Wow, two great names.
Second class and fourth overall in the 1967 12 Hours of Sebring.
And now the little Chevron Spiders join the pack.
And Chevron, you know, we talked about that Sauber, the gentleman driving the Sauber and owned the Sauber. That's what he drove before the Sauber, was the Chevron. But the Chevron didn't have a rear wing, and he wanted a rear-winged open cockpit car. They found that Sauber, and lo and behold, here they are.
Meanwhile, back at the front, 2 leaders, the Yellow Perils, the number 7, leading the way in the Alba Mark 7.
I love that's got a Hewlett 4-speed transaxle. I mean, you want to talk about for the era to have that kind of technology in it. I think that's pretty impressive. The 1964, you know, we're hearing transaxles thrown around now. I mean, NASCAR is going to go to transaxles in the next generation car, and you know, transaxles have been around a long time, obviously, but to see it in that era of car.
Yeah, I'm excited for the new era of NASCAR simply because it's been that way for so long now, and it's due a bit of an upgrade, isn't it?
I think so. I think it's going to be very good for the sport. You know, they're going to do more road racing as they are. They had 7 on the schedule this year. They built more of a car that is for road racing. Honestly, it's going to have paddle shift, transaxle, independent suspension, 18-inch wheels. You know, the list goes on there. So I think it's center lock hub. So it's going to be definitely a more modern race car to what NASCAR's had delivered in the past.
And I believe Poncho Weaver, who of course of Trans Am fame, had a little bit to do with the new Gen 2 car.
He has. He's had a lot to do with it. You know, Technique, which you see on the side of his cars, Technique is the fabrication company that is building those next gen cars, and it's an amazing process. I mean, the machine alone, that the robotic welding machine that fits and melt and makes all these identical chassis for NASCAR. I forget what the cost of the machine was, and I forget how many years of NASCAR racing they're going to have to do to pay for that machine. But but it's going to give us a great level playing field to watch NASCAR racing for years to come.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
That little Chevron looks like so much fun to drive. That's just like an airplane wing with a, you know, with an engine in it.
1972.
Developing a good race there between the Porsche and the Chevron.
Yeah, the 908's pulling away and leaving these two to get on with it.
That's exactly right.
Side by side up the hill, he thought about it. He might make a lunge, or will he wait till he gets down to 10?
Sense that the 908 would, as the race would go on, would tend to pull more of a gap. It's more of a long distance runner. The Targa Floria, the Nürburgring was second place, but it's a perennial up front finisher and on all the times that it raced in its era.
Targa Floria just does my head in. I heard Sterling Moss talk about that, and you know, obviously when you see the old, I've actually driven some of the old roads that they drove on, not at speed I may add, but when you think about what they were doing on literally normal Italian roads, very similar to the English roads, incredible speeds. They were averaging, I think Sterling was saying he was averaging over 100 miles an hour in some hours.
And not to mention, you have to, you know, dodge the drunk Italians on the road.
Absolutely, and chickens.
Had a little bit too much vino.
Yeah.
You know, the chickens
men on bicycles.
Men on bicycles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's lots of intangibles on top of the cobblestone streets that they ran on the Targa 4. I'm a huge fan of the event myself. I own a watch that commemorates that event because I love that event so much.
Right.
And it's a Fangio watch because I love Fangio so much. And as you speak about, listening about the likes of Sir Philly Moss driving around there, but I love to read the stories about Fangio in that and in the Mille Miglia.
Yes. So the 26 Chevron, the 1973 B26 in the yellow and black.
Coming around to get the 1 to go signal, no doubt, from our flagman.
Ray Gregory at the wheel of that orange and black. And they're getting a good race too, these two. Robert Kaufman still in the hunt.
Way to the inside, Andretti Hairpin, filling up that mirror, making sure I'm still back here,
Yeah, you're going to use those back markers if you dare. But they're getting out of the way, a little bit of wiggle there, maybe a chance on the penultimate lap.
That's still a full paddock here, we're getting later in the afternoon here Sunday. As we mentioned, we're wrapping up a close on the penultimate race of our day, of the weekend. I mean, I say the day, but that's because I want tomorrow to happen again. I want this to happen all over again tomorrow.
And we'll do it all again next year. There's plenty more to come. Here we go. Time running out, and it's just getting a little bit more competitive between these two.
This is going to shape up to be a great race here coming to the checker. You see something. I'm seeing a little bit of a protection from the leader in this the 26 car here. Getting the grip between its teeth.
Well, the 273s, the Lola is a 73 as well, a T292. Jim Buzagalu at the wheel.
And boy, did they put a gap on Gunner. I believe Gunner is still there. Right there, he comes through turn 10 right there. That's third place car.
Yep.
And Gunner's going to be very happy with that run. I know he was excited to get this in today. And, that's such a beautiful car. What a beautiful blue. I got to go look up close to it, spend a little time with him while we were waiting for our power to get turned back on. And it's such a breathtaking example.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you saw how tall he is.
Yes, he is. He's a tall fellow. So it is Jim Buzagalu ahead of Gray Gregory in the number 26, Brian Grossa in third. Gunner's in fourth, in fact.
Yeah, got around Gunner. 81.
Alex McAllister in fifth position at the moment. Here we go for the win. The Lola and trying everything he can now in the dying stages.
So yeah, the Sauber of Brian got around Gunner. I'm sorry, I apologize. I jumped the gun on the penultimate lap. We're on the penultimate lap now.
Final lap now, yeah. But now they're hitting traffic, so this race may not just go as smoothly. The Lola, though, doing the business.
Love the rear wing of that Lola up front. It's just it's got that long tail.
Yeah. You can see it well from here.
It's casting a shadow on the racetrack.
It is.
That tail is so long.
But he's done it. He's cracked the whip and pulled ahead. And so it's going to be Jim who takes it here in the 1973 T292.
I mean, he certainly dropped the hammer on that last lap. It looked like a race coming to the white flag, and then, man, the hammer got dropped, and he just took off.
Chevron takes second place.
And the Sauber coming up in third here.
Yep, and there's Gunnar Jeanette in the GT40 just behind the number 6, taking fourth place.
The first GT car after 3 prototypes. That's not a bad day for
Gunnar. It's not a bad day at the office. So, wonderful race for our penultimate red, and we've got something special for our finale. Well done to Gray Gregory. They put on a good show, a very good show. And Alex McAllister did cross the line in fifth place.
We've had such clean, hard-nosed racing today. I've been so impressed by our groups today and the job that they've done. And, man, they've kept the course clean, and we've been able to just move the schedule right along, Jonathan.
You're right. That rear wing is just really cool how it's part of the body, isn't it?
I love it. Yeah, I absolutely love. And love how far it goes back, right? That's still we're still finding an understanding of aerodynamics, and that just shows it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the rudimentary days, wasn't it?
Without a doubt.
So the Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion has put on a show. Missed out last year. HSR were very keen to make it special, and they've done so here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. So let's head down once again to Kev Harris in the paddock. Kev, what's going on there?
Well, how about this? I have just managed to get myself into some rather exclusive as well. The Rolex Drivers Club is a fantastic addition to Laguna Seca this year, and it is really something. Best seats in the house, and the people are getting royally looked after here, let me tell you. And the man that's made it all possible is John Narigi. He's the president and general manager of Laguna Seca. Firstly, John, thanks for letting us in here. And I have to say, the racetrack just looks $1 billion out the view that's behind us.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we're pretty proud of the look this year. This is the Rolex Diners Club, as you said. And this is where all the special guests come. Rolex, who is the sponsor of this event. And this is just one of the things we've really worked on this past year to upgrade, as well as the track. We got a lot of compliments from the participants on the track's condition, the look, the surroundings. And that was great to hear. That was great to hear.
You've only got to see the TV pictures that are getting beamed all around the world. The numbers on that are huge on the internet right now. You can see just how good the track looks. The Rolex branding is everywhere. WeatherTech branding is everywhere. Your crew have made this something. They really have.
You know, the staff here is pretty special. There's only 31 of us on staff, and we have worked extremely hard this past 3-4 months to get ready for this major event. And here at WeatherTech, you know, we are proud of what we've been able to do. We're very proud to continue to have an event such as our reunion because people come from around the world. And Laguna Seca, the track itself, is world renowned, as anyone who's in the racing industry is well aware of.
Yeah, and a quick mention as well for HSR, not even a quick mention, a big mention for HSR, because they're the sanctioning body for the event, and they've really added the authenticity to the vintage cars and the drivers and the owners that have shown up this year.
Yes, this year we really focused on the authenticity of the cars and the period correctiveness, which was kind of lost the last 3-4 years. An advisory council was put together of the vintage car professionals, extremely helpful. But HSR brought a whole new level of service, friendliness, and we've gotten nothing but compliments from the racers. And that this year we focused on getting the event back to really vintage car racing, and hopefully the participants agree with us. We made it happen.
Oh, you 100% did. My first year here at Laguna Seca at the reunion, and it's just been an absolute blast. The incredible thing is when you come to something like this, everybody that you speak to as we look out there on the paddock, they're enthusiasts of their vehicles, and they're so welcoming. We just rock up. These people have never met me from Adam. And they're like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. What can I tell you about my car? You want to sit in it? And it's Niki Lauda's 1976 Ferrari. I mean, that's incredible.
Yes.
Hospitality.
Yes.
The bar's been raised.
And this is the event. Most of them know each other.
Yeah.
I ran across people. This is my first reunion. They've been coming here for 25, 30, 35 years. But it's also a social time.
Yeah.
We call it kind of gentleman's racing. So they're not really here to hardcore race. They're here to exercise their cars, truly enjoy their cars, show off their cars, but really get some good time with a lot of good friends. Yeah. And that's really, I believe we really accomplished that this year.
Yeah, you have, and the facilities as well for the guests that are coming through the door. You've got a lot of different areas dotted around Laguna Seca. Wine tasting going on, you've got kind of like vendor alley and, Trans Am alley, so much. But what else? I've too much to mention,
yes,
but you've really thought about how you've laid it all out.
And, we brought in some brand new activities here. We've got go-karts running this year. We brought in a Ferris wheel. We have a jump house for the kids. So trying to make it a venue where come out and watch the racing, come out and enjoy the cars, but bring your kids.
Yeah.
And let them enjoy and make it a day out at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca.
And it's a day that fits perfectly inside a fantastic week, the Monterey Car Week. You've got to come down here for the whole thing, but this has to be like the thing that you have to make a stop for.
Absolutely. This is a park. This is a world-renowned racetrack. A lot of people don't get out to Laguna Seca, but it's pretty amazing, and it's a beautiful sight. And we've had a good week, although we had some hiccups this morning with the power outage for 6 hours.
But, so did about 10 million other people all across the valley, so don't worry about that.
That's true. But HSR, I can't say enough of.
Oh, wow.
We got back on the schedule. We will get everyone on track. We will be done on time, and they've brought a level. They've been super for us this year.
Yeah. Super professional and super friendly. But, just a quick word about next year. Difficult year in 2020. Here we are in 2021. What can you do for 2022?
Well, 2022, I'm not going to make the announcement on the air. We'll make it at our awards ceremony as far as what it's going to be. But we're going to change the dates up a little bit.
All right.
We're going to go Wednesday through Saturday, so they'll still get their 4 days of racing. But on Sundays, with the Concours d'Elegance out at Pebble Beach, many of these individuals are also involved with that. We want to be able to give them 4 days of racing. So Sunday next year is going to become more of a community day for Monterey County or those people that just want to come out, still sit around, looking at the beautiful cars, but do some different activities that are somewhat family related, as well as being involved with the track itself and the cars. And we're going to try it out. I think Monterey County residents would like it.
Yeah.
We hear a lot about traffic, so we're going to try to do something for them next year, and that's kind of the big change for 22.
I love it. You're not a man afraid to take a chance, and you know all about hospitality, so you're going to do it, John. Thank you ever so much once again for welcoming us into the Rolex Diners Club today and for having us for the whole weekend.
Our pleasure. Thank you for being here.
There you go. And thank you for watching us wherever you are in the world right now. We're going to go back to Johnny and Adam just as soon as we can, right after this short break.
This is Velocity International. And we've got one more race to come. Looking forward to it. And, of course, that is going to be our Masters Endurance Legends. And to finish it off, we're going to finish it off with an hurrah, that's for sure. Because these boys are going to be loud and fast, as we like it.
Final race of the weekend, the Group 6B Masters Endurance Legends.
Different makes in here, too, right? So there's a lot of different cars here, a lot of modern cars. It's an exciting group to end with. They get the longest session of the day, too. They get a full, I believe it's 30-minute session, if I'm not mistaken. At least that's what's on schedule. However, things going to change on the fly, but I believe that's what the schedule states. But you can see as the cars are lined up. That's that Panos. Very interesting car. It's a Panos prototype. There was a LMP prototype, 1999 is that era. Looking up close to it, Tony's got a good shot of that.
Yeah, I like it.
Right in the mirror. It's it's a front engine. I mean, you sit way far back on top of that rear axle. So a found success ladder in its life, the latter part of its life. See these prototypes that can't make the corner. They don't have enough turning lock.
Now, the Rolex Motorsports Reunion Masters Endurance Legends Group is brought to you by Mother's Polish, Waxers and Cleaners. And I think we've all had a little bit of that now and again. Polishes, waxes, and cleaners.
I love the stuff. Like I said, I'm a Mother's customer.
You're a mummy's boy.
I helped pay for that ad.
Well, once again, back in the booth, we've got James Alder, who I think he's had a good time this weekend. He'll be driving back to Reno soon in his race car.
That's the best part.
Well, again, that's the way to do it.
Absolutely. What do you think of this lot? Would you ever go in one of these?
Oh, I would. I absolutely would.
would.
But I did have an opportunity to drive a McLaren M8E in Australia, which was ground effects. Okay, but here's the thing: you got to drive the car faster than you think you can possibly go through the turn in order to get the ground effects to work.
Correct.
I had a lot. working up to that level.
Yeah, we were.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
We were talking the other day with Gunnar and saying that it is harder to drive a race car at slow speed than at speed.
Absolutely.
Because the attitude of the car is supposed to be at speed. So my dad would always say, you're not on the springs. You're not in the part of the shock that is designed to be in when you're not at speed. And that's why, like at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, they go through a rookie test. And they make you do 180 miles an hour, 190, 200. And that's the hardest part of the rookie test because you have no aero grip like those cars need, and the tires don't get up to temperature. But it's that confidence builder to it. Well, then when you do 220, that's not that big of a deal because the car's stuck compared to 180 where it felt like it wanted to come around.
But you got to convince your brain of that. I mean, you know, when everything else is telling you that you're about to die.
I know. You know, I had the privilege of going in a two-seater Formula One car with Damon Hill around Donington Park. My crowning moment, as it were. And I knew Damon pretty well, having been involved in ESPN for Formula One during the end of his career. So we were kind of pals by then, and he said, you know, you'd come out with me, and I said, I'd love to. So, you know, he's talking through, and he's telling me, and we've got radio communication. And I had a ball.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the last thing he said to me is, don't forget to breathe. Well, if you know Donington, I got all the way to the Dunlop Bridge and went, because I forgot to breathe.
You forgot to breathe.
And when I got out, Damon looked kind of shaken. And I said, that was great, man. Thanks so much. And he goes, I was a little bit nervous. And I said, why? He said, because the tyres weren't up to temperature by any means. And he said, it was slightly wet and damp. And he said, I was frightened to death. He said, because you've got to drive a Formula One car fast to get any grip. And I was like, I hadn't thought about it. And I was having a great time. And he was busy trying to just keep the damn thing on the asphalt.
And which two-seater was that?
It was a Minardi two-seater.
Okay, because I remember they tried to do a three-seater at one point.
Well, they had two-seater Minardi races.
Yes.
At one point, 6 cars. And Mansell turned one over.
Of course.
With a passenger in it.
Of course.
He got the ultimate drive.
You know, I don't know if you guys remember the two-seater, I think it was a Honda IndyCar, and they were doing commercials with that. In fact, people were able to sort of win a raffle and get a seat with Mario Andretti driving, right? Yeah. They did some sort of commercial where the guy that's the passenger is absolutely going berserk, and Mario Andretti is driving the car, and he's slow. He's noticing the flowers. There's a pretty girl in the
I've
stand.
seen it. I've seen it.
Because, you know, to him, that's when he's in his element. He's used to that. Yeah. Again, they show the camera back on the other guy, and he's about to jump out for fear of his life. You know?
Here we go, then. The final race of the Monterey Union for 2021. It's been a wonderful 4 days, and we finish it off with a roar of the Masters Endurance Legends.
Certainly our most modern take of cars that we'll see all weekend long. That's a DP. That's a Ronnie and Scott DP Mark III Daytona prototype at the helm there, leading the way. That's a Mark 11. Actually, DP. Spencer Trenery behind the wheel. Great little driver there, Spencer.
Now, we've got several drivers named in this, so I'm just wondering if there are either compulsory pit stops or it's a sort of choice thing.
Well, we did see actually in the session earlier today, practicing, a couple of the cars are practicing driver changes.
Yeah.
So we may see that, considering it's a longer session, we may actually see some driver changes here just to give a little endurance feel to this.
Well, it may be that if you don't have another driver, you still have to take the pit stop to sit and do the timing.
Yeah. You know? I'm not 100% aware of the rule. You know, this one we need a
DVD all will be revealed.
Yes, it will. The LMP2 cars in second.
There's that lovely Audi.
Now, Jonathan, do you know, will these be the fastest cars of the weekend, or what is that?
You know, that's a good question. I would argue yes.
Okay.
Because the Formula One cars, although very fast, the way these guys can corner with the design of them, I would argue that they're going to be. Like we said, we're not taking lap times per se, but I can tell you they're doing 139 across the strip. We just saw that.
And we've got some cars up to 146 miles an hour down the front straightaway here. So those are the greatest speeds we've seen on the radar gun, James. So very good question. These modern cars, the biggest thing is the grip of the tire. You know, they are able to accelerate off of 11 probably like nothing else that's out here. When they have, like you said, when you have a period Formula One tire technology on, and it's got a little bit of tread on it, they're not really getting that launch down the straightaway, I don't think, like the modern tires that are on these cars.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to presume, given that most of the Formula One cars we saw in action were like 70s and 80s. So, like you say, I think the technology just alone would give these cars the advantage.
And those are two LMP2 cars. Those are two Orica.
Yeah.
They're from 2011, LMP2 cars. And you have both Danny Baker and Keith Frazier behind the wheel of those.
Danny Baker is a star driver.
Yeah, super.
And Spencer Trenery is.
Yes. Yep.
This is actually full of stars in here. You know, you talk about those two, and then we also have, we have the Bill Auberlin in there. You got Connor DeFilippi. You got John Edwards in there.
Yeah, these are current IMSA drivers.
Yeah. This is a hot rod field here.
I wouldn't be surprised if Patrick Long's still here and he's jumped in again. He did the Trans Am historic yesterday as well as a bit of a ringer.
Yeah, you know, when you have Patrick Long walking around with his driving stuff, I'm sure it's more. He turns down more cars to drive.
Well, Travis Engen driving that Audi is also a long time. So is Charles Nurburg, who won 3 races yesterday. He's in that Chevrolet Corvette.
And Jonathan, I think that the Audi hit 146 in the speed trap.
There you go.
And speaking of John Edwards, that black and red BMW, that factory BMW, that is John Edwards behind the wheel of that. And that history, that car's got a lot of history with Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. We saw Bobby Rahal, and Kev was with him earlier today. And that car competed in a lot of races, and it's a pretty stout little car there behind the wheel that John Edwards gets to be Bobby Miller.
You know, it just reminded me, we just saw the M3 GT. We just had a launch today. So, you know, it's not just historics. We had a launch today yesterday by BMW as they look ahead to the future.
Yeah, they had their M4 GT3 launch yesterday, and what a beautiful machine that was. It looked like it lived in the wind tunnel. That's all it's done so far, James. That's K, but nonetheless, that's why we see the shapes that we see. There's really the one great way, as the wind tunnel's taught us, a perfect shape to go through the air, if you will. So you're seeing so much common shape, and this tiny little differences in philosophy.
So it looks like Spencer Trenery is in the lead. Danny Baker is in second. Again, those are super great drivers. I've watched them race for decades, and they're going to put on a good show, I'm sure.
That's what we love about one of the many things we love about having you up here with us, James, is you've been racing with these guys
that's
for
the beauty.
so long, and you have such a personal take on them that it's almost like having all of them up here at once, and it's quite special.
Well, you know, I love it. I feel very privileged that they allow me to do it. I just hope they will continue to allow me to do it.
Oh, you know, I think, it's like we were talking earlier, it's about making sure that we have the next generations that are willing to carry this on and carry this wonderful tradition on that's been going on for almost 50 years now. So, the Peter Gregg Foundation is one of those things I spoke about a lot this weekend. It's a wonderful foundation to help encourage youth into the STEM programs, science, technology, engineering, and math. They offer 5 scholarships every year for ages 17 to 21 to come spend 3 months down in their shop down in Jacksonville, Florida. This year in particular, they're building a 944 turbo, a mid-70s 944 turbo that Simon Gregg, Peter's son, is going to go race in a historic.
That's great.
And I know you have an idea and a concept that you would like to, put out there and maybe try and get it going in the same kind of realm.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned to you earlier, it seems that particularly in this country, they started dwelling on kind of college degrees that were business related, not necessarily vocational related. But we need mechanics, we need plumbers, we need carpenters, we need people that can do things with their hands. And so there are a lot of vocational schools that are, growing right now for that purpose. And what I thought would be a good thing to do for the purpose of helping the students, but also helping the sport of vintage racing, would be to donate a car, an inexpensive sports car, to a vocational school, with the agreement that a team would be put together for restoration, mechanics, electrical, body and paint, upholstery. Then, of course, photographers are needed, possibly limited telemetry. figure out a driver. I'm not sure quite how we figure that out. Figure out the insurance aspects of it, but then get that car on the track so the students could see the results of their work in reality as opposed to virtually. And then their friends would want to come, and their family would want to come.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you build it, they will come. The Field of Dreams mentality, right? We have to get that out there. So I love that idea, and hopefully there's some things along the lines that we can move forward and maybe move that forward. Because I would love to see, James, personally, I would love to see each one of those kids that you're talking about come in and get a white lab coat that eventually will turn into what you're wearing in front of us today.
Right.
And that's a walking wick.
Yeah. Well, they call it a walking fire hazard. One time, in fact, at this event, Chris Vandergrift, the head of HMSA, I was talking to him over at start-finish line, and he said, hey, James, was that your shop coat I saw hanging up, under the under a canopy? And I thought, oh my God, the wind has blown it into somebody's Ferrari, and I'm in trouble. And I said, well, yeah, I've got it hanging up there, And he said, aren't you afraid someone's going to steal that?
Yeah.
He wasn't kidding. I don't know. It's become kind of a trademark uniform, it seems like.
Yeah, no, it is. My dad has the same trademark, except his was blue. And it's hanging in the garage still, and I think it can walk on its own someday.
Yeah, probably can.
We're watching that beautiful 2012 Orica 0803 LMP2 car that we mentioned, that black and orange. Keith Fraser at the wheel, lights blazing.
And if we look at the timer, we are at 31 minutes, so they do get a longer session than the rest of the group.
Well, this is great.
Yeah.
This gives the crowd a taste of some more contemporary racing. Certainly they can be mixed. In Europe, oftentimes in a modern race, they'll have a Porsche Cup race or some vintage cars that are supporting the modern F1 race or whatever. And again, that's important to expose the people to it.
Yeah, as it should, yeah.
They're lovely footage, of course. We've been talking so highly of it all weekend long, but we just can't say enough about it. It's giving me a new take, a new look on the WeatherTech Raceway here at Laguna Seca. I've never seen that kind of view of here, and it's really it's been spectacular. So this is the 90, no, this is the 09. That is the 09 Coyote Corvette DP. That's William Hubble behind the wheel of that car. Those are fun cars. Those are probably our most modern car out there. With that, in that, as far as prototypes go, that era of prototype, that DP prototype was just before the DPIs. Now we have a version of it. We have a show car DPI down at near the Motul. It's the Honda booth that's down there in the paddock, and it's amazing to see, just even in the short amount of time from 2011 to 10-year period, how much we've come, how much even that's come and progressed, and even the wind tunnel, the little nuances that they found in the wind tunnel since then. Thunderous V8s roaring out in front of us as well. Nothing wrong with that sound.
Now, there is a mandatory 2-minute pit stop between 15 and 25 minutes.
Oh, we love that.
Into the race. That's why some of the cars, not all, some of the cars have got second and third drivers. Some of them will stay in and they're the only driver, but they'll still have to do that pit stop.
Which of course is great. But on the other side of the coin, there are guys, back in the day, I'm talking pre-World War II and a little bit post-World War II, as probably both of you know, gentlemen drivers that drove the 24-hour of Le Mans single-handedly.
Yeah. This is nuts. Yeah. I still can't get my head around that.
I know. And of course, there were pit stops, there were tire changes. Oftentimes, those drivers had a few hits of brandy before they went back out.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can learn something.
As you know, adrenaline's a wonderful thing too. It's amazing how much adrenaline can get you and keep you awake. I know that after a race, my wife and I, we drive to almost every event with an RV, and after our races, I know that I'm wanting to drive more. So she's thinking I'm exhausted. No, you should rest. No, I could sit in that other seat and you can drive, and I'm not going to rest. My brain is going 1,000 miles an hour right now, and it's not slowing down. And it looks like we have driver getting ready for their driver change.
Yeah, we got about a minute and a half.
That's Oberlin. Yeah, that's Bill Oberlin.
Bill Oberlin getting ready.
Well, most racing car drivers that I know, and you're probably the same, we're not very good passengers.
No. I can attest to that.
Yeah. It's, I have a line, James, that I use. I didn't spend my whole life acquiring the skill to be a passenger.
There you go.
And,
we're a little bit control freaks in that way, too.
I was about to say, that's the truth. I've never seen a racing driver many times in a passenger car, and I've never seen a racing driver on a roller coaster.
I love roller coasters, though.
No, do you?
I do.
You're the first racing driver I've ever met roller coaster.
I actually love a roller coaster. And
all
my brother
control
John.
feet.
But think of Jenkinson. Think of Dennis Jenkinson in the passenger seat
What
of the
on earth?
300 SLR in the Mimilia that he created, which was sort of a reversing toilet paper thing that he would unroll, and then he'd give hand signals to Sterling Moss as to the degree of sharpness of the next turn. They were averaging more than 100 miles per hour for 1,000 miles.
He was the first
and
rally
Jenks
co-pilot.
would sit there, and do like this, and he had to get it right. I mean,
it's incredible.
That is incredible.
That's not Google Maps.
That's incredible. And by the way, there's no movie of that. There needs to be a movie of that.
That actually is a great
the Bentley
movie.
Boys. I mean, there's a lot of great stories.
I've always wanted the Nuvolari story to be told.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Got one of my favorite stories. So this is the Orca in for a possible, they're mandatory pit stop. Not necessarily a driver change, but they have to do a mandatory 2.5 minute pit stop.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Which seems like a lifetime, but...
2 minutes at pit road, man. You might as well spend 2 hours at pit road.
Well, they're just making a quick adjustment.
The dive plane has come up, it looks like. They're just trying to make sure it stays attached. Those create a lot of air pressure, those little dive planes. You wouldn't think so, but he's missing one. If you look over the right side,
I see
there's
that.
a lower one as well. That's missing the lower one. So I think whatever contact caused that, they're just making sure that upper one stays tight.
So the pit stop window open, and we'll see some more pit stops momentarily.
Well, with these cars and these speeds, Adam, those little aero devices are probably reasonably critical.
Oh, they are.
I would argue. Yeah,
you will feel it missing that, and it's it's like an air pressure change, right? If you were to have all 4 equal tires and all of a sudden drop one tire by 5 pounds, you feel that change. You're going to definitely feel that. You got a tire off, and no different than there. You're going from making twice as much pressure on the right front, air pressure wise, and it's unbalanced. It's not making the same on the left front. So.
This car that just came in off of the pit stop, off of the hot pit lane, he had a lot of confidence in the temperature of his tires because he went onto the Andretti hairpin and stayed ahead of a car that was coming through on a race lap.
Absolutely. And the confidence is the key word there because he came out aggressive. He didn't use any blend line. That was, I'm coming over and I'm going to stay in this position.
Ooh, somebody's parked up there. Is that the BMW?
That looks like one of the BMWs up at the top of the hill there, which is they're double yellow because of it. So we're in a double yellow condition. So they're going to go ahead and bunch this field up, get that car out of that position. The reason why, for our cameras, we saw that car real easy. As James will attest, sitting in the car, you couldn't see where that car was parked. It's blind up at the top of that hill. So if you come up crest side by side to somebody, and you're expecting there to be room to the inside, and all of a sudden there's a car parked up there, that could be really catastrophic.
We're going to get a bunch of pit stops now, obviously, with that car struck up there. They're mandatory 2 minute pit stops, and here they come.
And Tony is a busy man getting that footage for us.
Go, Tony, you're up.
And
the Audi's in, the Porsche's in.
And this is a busy pit lane. Tony's right there with one of the Orca LMP2 cars. And there it is, the 34.
And that's number 24 hours off Le Mans. Number 34, the Orica.
They're not going to do a driver's change. They're just going to say hi to Mom.
Yep.
Well, I think the pit stop is mandatory, but not necessarily a driver's change.
Correct, yeah. And here comes that bright green Ferrari.
I suppose the shot of brandy is optional.
Yes.
That has to be approved by Steve DeBreck.
That's coming later.
No, speaking of blind spots on the track, going into the corkscrew, of course, it can be blind. At the school that I was in my first event, there was a McLaren coupe. They only made 2 of them. The orange coupe, I can't remember the model of it, but it was at this event, and it was sideways, right in front. I would have gone over it in the 120, but fortunately I did not. But it was a hairy moment. The other place where I find it a little hairy is actually in the main straight.
Right here.
You go under start finish. Now I'm way on the left. I'm over in the green area because I'm taking the straightest line. And so when you crest that little hill on that main straight, if there's a car that's sideways in front of you, you're not going to see it. So I'm really looking at the turn workers. I mean, those turn workers are absolutely invaluable. They're going to give us information in advance. And then, of course, I'm only doing maybe 95 miles an hour. They're maybe 98 or something. These guys are doing 150.
Yeah. But, I mean, and I love you brought the point up. It's a huge thank you to all our marshals this week. That's a volunteer position. They sit out in that sun, and they work hard, and they are there to rescue, and they're there to put their lives on the line.
Here comes Shalita at the pits.
I think that's what's so special about having all them, and I agree. I add to that sentiment and echo that sentiment that they do a fantastic job here. And up over the hill, that is one of the sketchiest areas here, and I know that I've always... Now, you're one of the few people, now you're probably going to be one of the only people I could talk to here today, that's driven the old Laguna. Talk about the old Laguna a little bit, where this hairpin didn't exist.
Correct.
Come into an air flip. What happened there? What would happen when you came over the hill?
It was a left-hand turn, then it went to a pretty long straight with another left-hand, a subtle turn, and then it connected with what is now turn 5. Back then, that was turn 3,
right.
And it was very high speed through there. That was an area where in my car I was over 100 miles per hour, and you got to pay real close attention.
Yeah. Those men were men.
Well,
as I said.
Sheep were nervous. But it's definitely will put hair on your chest.
It was a very bad testing crash that my uncle experienced in that old turn 2. That is why they reshaped it and made it an Andretti hairpin.
I'm sure as the cars become faster, that was just too fast.
It was so fast. I mean, it was. We talk fondly about Old Laguna because it's nothing we have to face ever again.
Well, I saw a Sunbeam Tiger having a tremendous dice with a 250 short wheelbase Ferrari, and they were at around turn 2, very high speed. Did a 360, caught it, kept on. I mean, it could have been staged, but it wasn't.
Which BMW? Does that look like the 55?
Yeah, that was the 55 that was stuck up at the top there. That's the M3 GT. And Bill Oberlin was supposed to get in it, but it's stuck at the top of the hill at the moment.
I think that's why he had that look on his face of what he had this shrug of the shoulders. What was going on?
Yeah, exactly.
So it looks like there's still that first full course yellow.
Yes.
But one flag, Adam, that I'm sure you're familiar with, and I'd like to comment on, is the yellow flag with the red stripes. And they do not talk about that enough at the drivers' meetings, which they should. But that, of course, is the surface flag.
Yes.
The only reason that these cars that can be controlled is because of the consistency with the surface. Somebody ahead of you blows their sump, you get into oil, you're going to lose that contact. If you're at a high speed, you just become a passenger. That's the most dangerous situation that these drivers face. And I really wish in vintage racing they would dwell on that more.
Yeah, right. Especially vintage racing where it's such a...
right. Cars are going to, seals are not as good, gaskets are not as good.
Right.
There's a chance that, and a Jaguar with a standard oil pan in it holds 13 quarts of oil. You can oil like about 80% of the course with that much oil.
Exactly.
It's very important, particularly in the vintage cars, and it is stressed. If you have a problem, if you think you're losing fluid, pull over.
Yeah, get
off.
The track, yeah, I don't want to take any chances on oil because you lose so much time, and then you lose the confidence in the track. Grip levels are different, all that good stuff. But yeah, no, great point. I think the slippery surface flag is a very important one. There's as all of our that's a good one. I know that whenever I see it, I'm definitely exercising much caution with that.
The thing is that when you not inspecting that flag, all of a sudden it's there, then you got to make a decision. Well, you know, what do I do?
Yeah.
Because if you brake, if you let off too quick, you can lose control. You know, if you turn into, you know, there's a moment you got to really work out those decisions very carefully. Otherwise, you're gonna lose it.
Yeah.
Well, we're still on the safety, as you can see, the safety car. The Lexus leading this group of cars around the field. We've got 17 minutes left in our final race of the weekend. Listening to Adam Andretti and James Older tell us about their experiences. Especially James is here because he's been out all weekend enjoying it in his Jaguar.
He was a Group A car, so he's very much enjoyed Sunday. He doesn't have anything to do but to drive home today.
Well, I'll be driving home most likely Monday. I'm going to pack things up, you know, have a nice, relaxing dinner tonight.
Good for you, yeah.
I oftentimes just sort of head home right afterwards. But, well, in the old days, here at this event, there was a lot of champagne consumed at the awards. And then to drive for the, 5 to 6 hours,
not worth it.
A little bit too risky. And plus, I hate to tell you this, Adam, but I've hit 2 deer in my XK120.
No way.
Yeah, and so I'm...
that's got to put a healthy dent
that's,
in that car.
well, the first time it just... out. Yeah. And I'm fearful of hitting an animal on the road, having the bonnet scoop it up, go through the windshield, and take off the head of the driver.
Yeah, you don't want that.
You've hit 2 deers in that car, right?
Yes, I have. Yeah. So that's not good.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
In fact, 9 years apart to the day.
Who came off
9
worse?
years apart to the day.
And how long ago was that?
The first one was in 1978, I believe, and 9 years later was number 2.
So you've missed the next 9 years. You've missed a lot of... Because I was going to say, you better watch it on the 9 years on that date. You would just leave that car parked on that date.
Hey, every vehicle I have those sonic devices.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they work or not, but I will tell you this. I haven't hit a deer since.
So the lights are off on the safety car and we're about to go racing for the last 15 minutes of the Rolex Reunion. For 2021, in comes the pace car, and we are going racing again. The 81 comes in and out. That's Douglas Barron at the wheel, and away we go. Look at this.
Gotta imagine this is the racing group here that Audi R8 is gonna want to get around the GT car.
Whoa, that was a little bit of a bonsai move there. Can he get away with it? And look at this on the outside.
Oh, and the drone is the best view of that by far.
Man,
we got every little angle of every little move there, and there was about 6 going on. There's your leader in the middle, in the number 15. What a restart.
That was a fascinating restart, especially with just how everything spread out. You have John Edwards there in that M3 GT2 from 2000. Really making work of this. You got the leader here that's stuck back in the slower GT traffic, just trying to make sure that they work their way through and do it nice and clean and don't sacrifice themselves a race.
Great restart into Andretti. There was all sorts going on there. Putting on a show here at Monterey.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a replay, honestly, of that Andretti hairpin on the start, because that was, I think it was too much to take in live. There was so much going
Frankly,
on.
I thought there was contact. I could be mistaken, but I wouldn't mind
Porsche
seeing a replay also.
Yeah, there was a Porsche that midway through was trying to get to the apex and realized the car was diving in and had to make a big swerve and a big move out of it, too.
Sir Sterling Moss did a bonsai move going into the Andretti hairpin. And an Aston DBR1 did not turn out very good.
No.
In fact, I think he sat there at the hairpin and a helicopter retrieved him and we never saw him again.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
How long ago was that?
That was in 1989 when it was a tribute to Aston Martin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been best pleased with himself.
I'm not surprised that Sterling was out there hustling.
That's right.
I'm not surprised that Sterling was out there hustling the car.
Oh, yeah. No, he took out Vic Edelbrock in a Lister Corvette.
Oh, man.
A couple other, and those really the most fantastic exotic class. With the Listers, with the D-Jags, the DBR1. How much more exotic can you get than that?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why they had him in it.
Well, actually, for the listeners that aren't familiar with that model number, if they are familiar with the movie Ford versus Ferrari, that's the car that Carroll Shelby was driving, and he won Le Mans with that car in 1959.
Wow.
Really good. I'm so glad you brought that point, because that's not how I would have described the car, but that's a better way to describe what car that is. So absolutely, it's a special car in history.
Oh.
Well, the SunTrust car definitely trusting his instincts. He's trying to get past the Audi. The storied history Audi, number 2.
Have fun out breaking that Audi, though, man. That's a deep braking car.
Yes. Yeah. He's going to do it. Here we come, down the main straight.
The Audi's been the fastest car on the straightaway, though, as James pointed out. I haven't seen anyone go faster than 146, but that Audi is what's been... Ooh, big rear lock up by the 15.
No, he's going to have to snooker that. If that's Bruce Trenery in front, I mean, he's going to have to fill his mirrors to the point where Bruce makes a mistake, and Bruce does not make, or is that Spencer? I'm sorry, that's Spencer Trenery. Does not make very many mistakes.
Yeah, Spencer's in the 15
is that Danny
car.
Baker behind him?
You got Travis Engen is in the Audi, the number 2 silver Audi, and then you have
Spencer and Danny Baker.
Spencer's in the 15, and then I believe you have
the 40 is the Oracle.
Yeah, Danny Baker and the other Oracle.
Yeah,
he
didn't change. He didn't change. He sat in the pits and didn't change driver, so it should be still Keith.
Actually, that'll be Keith Frazier.
Yeah,
Keith Frazier is in that Oracle.
Yep. Great racing. Good show they're putting on. And down towards Rainey they come. Side by side almost.
And then, the Audi saw him. Left room.
Yes. And that's part of the respect between these drivers.
He's looking for the inside line as they head towards 11 again. He's trying to, if he gets good drive out of 11, then maybe there's a run at Andretti. And he does do exactly that. But that Audi's got that, like you say, straight line speed.
Spencer's doing a great job of rolling the corner, though. He's really hitting the apexes. Look at the arc he's taking. He's really getting a lot more corner speed that I know once he gets around, when he finds his way around the Audi, he's going to set sail. He's going to be gone.
This is great.
What a great race here.
Under the bridge they come into 4. What a way to end the weekend here. 3 cars, line astern, and the famous 2005 R8 LMP1, the silver and red.
Boy, it pulls up the hill nicely against that American V8, doesn't it?
Well, again, your camera guys are just doing a great job because they're finding the race within the race. It just happens to be for first, second, and third right now.
At the moment, yeah. Into the corkscrew.
And all the mandatory pit stops have been completed, so this is a pure all-out race for the next 10 minutes.
Well, this is where he's quick, is the SunTrust car.
I would like to see him use a bigger arc through Rainey and get the run down into 10.
Yep.
And that's where I think the move would really happen for him. This could be it. This could be it right here, but it's hard to late break that Audi.
Yeah, and the Audi is as wide as he can be at the moment.
Yep.
He likes to use a bit of the asphalt and the runoff green.
I tell you what, the fastest line going through the corkscrew is, you want to stay up on the right after you do that right clipping point,
Yep.
And you swing out to the left. You want to point the car to the right. That's the faster line. But if there's a guy right behind you. Oh, here you go.
That was a nice move down into turn 3 there.
Yeah.
Beautiful move into turn 3.
Not the obvious overtake, but
no, that's a brave move. That's a really brave move. So really nicely done.
And now the 40's coming. The Orica's coming too.
Well, you know what? I think that Audi has a little bit of a problem.
Well, he's holding
on to the Orica. We'll see.
I knew the Riley was quite a bit quicker. So once Spencer was able to get clear, I knew he was going to take off. He was able to carry so much more corner speed. He was just losing straight away.
So now right here, getting into the corkscrew here again.
We had a car dead to the inside there in turn 6.
Was stuck on the inside,
so if they're really, really close, you take the initial turn left, which is right there, then the right turn. But if they're really, really close, you can go stay on the inside. You just go straight, and you'll be in the way of the guy taking the clipping point.
Yeah, it's the 145. That's the 997 of David Alvarado.
He's got a little damage in the rear. I'm thinking he got help.
Yeah.
He has a little damage in the left rear of that car, so without a replay or without knowing, I think he might have got, oh, here we go.
Here's a replay of these two.
Oh.
And the overtake at 3.
What a run, man. What a run out of the Andretti hairpin.
Didn't he? Yeah.
And I tell you, that Audi didn't want to give it up. He kept to the right. He kept a defensive position, made him work for that.
So, just 8 minutes to go. Audi taking a wide line through Andretti, the Oreca. Very close indeed.
Is that Bill Auberlin and the BMW just hounding on these prototypes right there?
That's amazing.
That would make sense, yeah. Fantastic stuff. What a wonderful weekend it's been. I'm sure the fans have enjoyed it here in California. Perfect weather.
It truly has been just one of those magical weekends for us here in every way, shape, or form. From the people that we've gotten to meet and interviews and watching Kev Harris have more fun than anybody could ever imagine having fun in that paddock area. And Jonathan and I up here in the booth really enjoying our time. The great shots we're bringing you from home. Hopefully everyone that's watching from around the world and will watch this coverage in the future just enjoys it as much as we thoroughly have.
See, look, Herbert Waite and Barber, so 3 drivers involved in that car.
I believe that is Auberlin there just hounding these prototypes.
Robertson Calfo in car number 12. Yeah, I think you're right. And that was the car that a moment ago was stuck up the top of the corkscrew.
It's running fine now.
It is. Now the other Oreca, the 03 LMP2. Danny Baker coming back into the play.
Oh! That's a lockup there. He was not expecting the
Did
Audi
they
to
touch?
slow. No, I don't think so. I think he expected the Audi. I've noticed that the Audi is not carrying a lot of corner speed, and I think that car, the Oreca behind him, wasn't prepared for as much as they were slowing down. Was expecting him to take more corner speed.
Yeah, it looks like he's got a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Getting hot, all those things happening. Might even be physicality, you know. It's a physical track. Those are physical race cars to drive. You're pulling 3 to 4 G's in the corner, and Auberlin's going to be next.
Yeah, he's having a go, isn't he? Up the hill he comes. And the Audi, a rare sight to see because it's usually he or that car that dominates any race, but not today.
Adam, as you know, when you catch the back markers here, you got to time that just right. You can use that to your advantage.
Yeah.
Even back off a little bit, then pass that back marker at the exact right moment, then you're blocking the guy behind you that you're competing with.
Exactly. If you could set that pick right before the corkscrew, that's ideal. Because corkscrew, for most intents and purposes, is a one-laner. I mean, most people, unless you got a pass made, it's a one-lane deal.
That's what I call traffic management.
Yes. I like your words. Course management, traffic. These are things I'm going to use in the steward's office from now on.
I didn't block him. I was just managing the traffic.
Yeah, right. Mr. Hoots, that was course management.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's not blocking. I take offense to the word blocking.
Exactly.
Here they come. Past some back markers.
Look at
There's
this.
the replay now.
That lockup.
That was close.
Yeah, that was that little bit of a lockup there.
Just really wasn't expecting that overslow, right? That was all that was. Look, we call that the accordion effect.
And luckily our cameraman was at a safe distance of 200 feet.
Yes. Well, I thought he was at home flying that thing.
He may well be by now, yeah.
He's back at the hotel, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. 4 minutes to go in the reunion.
The 88 of Wade Carter is not letting that Audi get away. That 88, that's a Ronnie and Scott Mark III. That's a very early version. That's before they went. That version there was the last of the open cockpit prototypes before Daytona prototypes became a thing. You know, when that was Grand Am, and actually I raced. That was the era that I raced those cars. I raced a 2000. I only ran at Daytona. It was only a one-off race for a team, but it was a Spice Oldsmobile Spice. So not exactly the most competitive package, but at least I can say I was there. That was the year that the Ferrari, the F333 SP, took overall win with Mr. Moretti.
Yeah, the Momo Ferrari.
So the clock ticking down in the last few minutes of the 2021 reunion. And And Rolex putting on a show as always. And congratulations to HSR. They have put on a cracking show.
When I speak about Kev Harris having the most fun out of anyone, he's out there capturing audio, he's getting video on his phone, he's waving at me with a big smile. I mean, this man, he does not want to go back over the pond. He wants the historics to say, yeah, he wants the historics to stay here, and he wants to stay here forever. So
Nobody wants to leave.
I think we've got a convert, James.
Yeah,
Leaving's the worst part.
Yeah, it is the worst. What is the British term? Parting is such sweet sorrow.
Sweet sorrow, lovely. Nice bit of spoke shake.
You like that?
Yes. A little bit of Shakespeare to end it all. What a classic from Andretti.
But remember, racing is living, and everything else is waiting.
And you know,
Thank you, Mr. McQueen, another California boy.
You know, I failed literature when it came to Shakespeare, so the fact that I pulled that one out there, Jonathan, that's a big deal.
Yeah. I think Tabitha might be impressed that you were pulling out Shakespeare day 4. Nice.
I think that had to have been from Tabitha, because she would be the eloquent one of us, the both of us, that would actually probably understand what William was saying.
Huh?
She is. She is.
So then, down to the last 2 minutes. The 88 continues to circulate. The Riley and Scott Mark III. Wade Carter at the wheel. He now has a go at the Audi, who's had a bit of a rough day of it, but he's kept out going. And when you think about the groups that we've had, they've all been solid, they've all been entertaining, and they've all been nicely matched too. We've had some really, really good races, including which James Older has been involved in that beautiful number 33 white XK120. Look it up.
New Old English.
New Old
Yes.
English.
Yeah, that is the color.
Yeah.
New Old English white is quite creamy. I wanted something a little bit brighter. I found a Jaguar color. It is actually, in fact, called New Old English white.
That's
and
hilarious.
old with an E on the end of it.
Yes, of course.
Of course. No, it's been a real pleasure, James, having you around with
thank you
us,
so much.
and we've really enjoyed thoroughly. That's sincere from deep down inside. We've had and I think I'm sure our fans at home have really enjoyed. I look forward to hearing from you when you finally watch this. The cover. We had a lot of fun covering you and your races.
Well, thank you.
You did a fantastic job. You hold a pretty wheel. I say that a lot, but you do. You hold a pretty wheel, and it shows that you got great experience here, and the camaraderie and all the passion that you show. And I wish you nothing but the best, sir, and nothing but safe travels as well.
Adam, thank you very, very much. It's been a pleasure to be here and talk with you guys. If I can help you out anytime, I'm happy to.
Appreciate that.
We assume you're coming back next year.
Yes.
Safe assumption.
Well, and if you guys are running the event at what's called the Velocity Invitational,
okay,
that's the November event.
Are you going to that?
That's the November event here.
Okay.
You know,
you never know. You never know where you might find Jonathan and I.
Well, here comes the number 15. He's been a great run for the Riley, the 2006 Riley. As the clock ticks down here at the majestic and effervescent Laguna Seca. 1957 it all began here. But in fact, racing here in this part of California began in 1950 with the mighty Phil Hill winning in an XK120. And to finish it off, it is an American Riley here in 2021 who will take the checkered flag here for what has been truly a wonderful return to historic racing. The checkered flag is out, and the Riley comes across the line to finish what has been a superb display of 1983 to 2016 Masters Endurance Legends. My thanks to James Older and, of course, to Adam Andretti. And that is the final race of the day. And in a moment, we'll join Kev and wrap it all up. But I think that was a fitting way to end what has been, gentlemen, a great weekend.
And they all came with their headlights on. They're crossing the line with their headlights on in style, letting us know we're bringing this fabulous weekend to an end in nothing but style. And thank you to all the competitors here as well, and the owners of these wonderful cars that put them out there. Don't let them sit in a museum somewhere. Bring them out here, and they put them through the paces. We get to love it. We get to be a part of it. And I just find ourselves so incredibly blessed to be here and to have to be able to experience this. So thank you again to absolutely everybody. It's been a real treat. HSR, the wonderful staff here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, all the folks at Rolex and the great partner that they are to be here. It truly is a good thing. as I do the cool down lap here and get ready to bring a draw to our end and or bring an end to our weekend here. And they're going to give some awards and all kinds of, like you said, maybe share some champagne around and have a great time.
Well, you guys come out to the awards because remember, these drivers, as we talked about before, they have everything to lose, nothing to gain.
Yeah.
The awards that are given out are not necessarily for performance.
Right.
They find other reasons to give somebody an award, but it's all about participation. I'm not talking about everybody getting a trophy.
And just to confirm our 6B results, Spencer Trenery in the 2006 Riley wins ahead of Danny Baker and Wade Carter, second and third, and another Riley Scott in third. Hubble Curran was fourth. Dante Tornello, the youngster, he did it. He came back and did it and took fifth place. Good for him. Keith Freiser, we've been talking about him all weekend. In sixth place, Travis Engen in seventh, and Plunsky and Filippi, the MC driver, in eighth position. John Edwards, ninth, and Lauren Beggs rounding out the top 10. Further down, Crass, Herbert Waite Barber, the only three-man team there, and in 13th place, Tony Ferrero. Scooter Gable in 14th place, Roberts Calfo in 15th, Wally Owens 16th, Sweeney and Calais in 17th, Matt Johnson 18th, we saw him earlier with the Ferraris, Andrew Fox 19th, and Douglas Barron in that Porsche 996 rounds out the top 20.
21, Matt Johnson 67, 18th, Andrew Fox 43, 19th, and Douglas Barron completes the top 20 in car 81.
And with that, we'll take a short break and we'll wrap it all up after this.
Finish on. I spent the whole of it standing down here on the pit wall, getting all of the noise, all of the excitement. Johnny and Adam were just up there in their commentary position. Adam said it on the comms in the closing stages of that one. I was having the time of my life. I do hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It's incredible here at Laguna Seca, and those endurance cars to finish at the end, the noise and everything, superb. And I can see just across the way over there, they have run down. Come on in, chaps.
You enjoyed that, didn't you?
I did enjoy that. It's genuine. You saw me from the commentary, didn't you?
I did. Absolutely. I saw you having the time of your life. The smile we haven't been able to wipe off all weekend long, and it's just really been an absolute pleasure to watch, not only to see everything we saw, but to see the pure raw enjoyment you had here, Kev. It's really palpable.
Well, thanks, buddy. I mean, honestly, and Johnny and Adam, I've probably got a thimble full of the knowledge about these cars that you two have, but I now have all of the excitement and all of the appreciation of what spending a weekend at a racetrack with these kind of cars is all about. It's been a blast, isn't it, Johnny?
Yeah, and people say, you always sound so excited when you're working, Johnny. What's the deal? And I can now see it on your face and what you've experienced. This is what we love. This is what we love to do.
It really is. And I tell you what, if you can get down here next year, as soon as tickets go on sale, do it. You will not be disappointed, especially if you're watching the UK. You're in the sunshine as well. It doesn't get any better. We'll compose ourselves for a moment if we can, gents. I mean, right, so what have we got? Highlights of the weekend. You've literally just come off commentary. I'm throwing this at you. Who wants to go first? We've seen so much. What, Johnny, you're putting your hand up there. You have a scratch in your head. What do you think if I said to you would be one thing or a couple of things? You're going, do you know, Kev, I really enjoyed seeing that, or I really enjoyed doing that. Come on, who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Go on, Johnny.
It's not bad when you come to a course that has an Andretti corner, a Rahal corner, and a Rainey corner, and there's a representative from all three.
That is why you do the job you do. Great knowledge and a great shout. Adam, can you beat that? What do you reckon?
I think, honestly, what we've just experienced this afternoon with James Alder up there in the booth. James, as we spoke about, just epitomizes what these historic events are all about. Yeah. This is a family to him. I mean, he talks about it with such passion and such dedication, and that's really what, I mean, I learned so much more about the competitors because Johnny and I were stuck in the booth. We get a little bit of time to get out there and mix in with the group, but James brought him to life for us. Like, he was up there, and it was like we had every driver in the paddock sitting up there with us because they could speak through James.
Yeah, fantastic. I was actually listening on commentary as well, probably the first time on the weekend I've actually got to stop for a moment and chill, and I got all of that, and I got the excitement, and it really was a great finish. So, folks, I think sadly that is it. Our thanks go out to so many people for this broadcast. The guys at Greenlight Television have provided the pictures. Oh boy, what a job they have done. We've got HSR, Historic Sports Car Racing, who have sanctioned the entire event. The WeatherTech Raceway here at Laguna Seca, their staff have got it looking amazing. It's never looked cleaner. It's never looked brighter. And what about Rolex? How about that? They put on a fantastic display there with the Drivers Club that everyone could watch from, and the Trans Am display at Ford. Johnny, have I missed anyone?
No, I just feel like it's a new era for the event and for the fans who've loved it since 1974.
Yeah. Well, listen, folks, we hope we'll be back next year, and we do hope, if we are, that you will be too. But for now, from all of us here at the Monterey Motorsport Reunion at Laguna Seca, thanks ever so much. See ya.